We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. Our first guest is Ken Oliver and Jennifer Martino. And Ken and Jennifer are calling in from New York, and they have a system of weight loss, which works very well, and which in this system they teach us about habits of health, which helps us, what they call a permanent lifestyle change, helps us keep the weight off. Again, Ken Oliver and Jennifer Martino. Ken and Jennifer, are you there?
This is Ken. Hi, Josh.
Hi, Ken.
Hey, Josh. This is Jen.
Jen, hi. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate you being guests today on Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. Ken, what exactly is your program?
Well, our program is a 5-in-1 plan that has a series of meal replacements and one lean and green meal a day, which is basically a protein meal, salad, and vegetable. But essentially, it's a program where a person eats every 2 to 3 hours during the day. It's designed for satiety so they don't get hungry at all, and it keeps your blood sugar level flat or along a line all day long. And it's a fast weight loss program, but with a guide towards creating optimal health.
And you said how many meals a day?
You eat a total of 6 meals a day. 5 meals are meal replacements. There's 70 or more types of foods and flavors, something for everybody, and one regular meal which we help you design and teach you what to do. But essentially the program is designed to create a new lifestyle for people as relates to food in order to avoid gaining the weight back.
So you see yourself...
Most important thing, there's 3 stages, but the most important stage in my own mind, other than the obvious, the weight loss and the transition, is the maintenance. Because what separates this program from many others is that you get an individual personalized coach for life if you want them, and the coach teaches you how to avoid the triggers that got you heavy in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
It's designed to make optimal health by helping people with various maladies. The ones that are the most common that we see often success with and improvement is high cholesterol, high blood pressure, etc., triglycerides. We can't make health promises in that regard, but it's an extremely common side benefit to losing weight, which most programs will do.
Mm-hmm.
The difference, of course, here is the individualized coaching.
So, for example, Jennifer, what would I have for breakfast?
What you could have for breakfast is they have pancakes, we have oatmeal. Some people, like myself, when I'm running out the door, I will have a ready-made shake. You can have a bar that you want. So really, there's different types of breakfast foods, but any of the foods you could have throughout the day because they're all the same nutritional blueprint.
And what would be in the protein shake, for example?
You talking about the as far as the nutrition is concerned?
Yes.
So basically, you're looking at anywhere between 90 to 110 calories, depending on the flavor.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be getting right around 14 grams of carbohydrates, 4 of them or more being dietary fiber, and around 11 grams of protein.
And you feel that 11 grams of protein, which is roughly like eating 2 large-size eggs, is good for a meal. Is that it?
Yeah, it's good for 3 hours, and then in another 3 hours you put in another 110 calories plus the same 14 grams of carbohydrates, the dietary fiber, and then another 11 to 13 grams of protein.
And Ken,
And that's just for the 5 meals.
For 5 meals. And Ken, is there a protein requirement for the program? Do you recommend, say, 60 to 75 grams of protein for an adult male or female for the course of the day?
Yes, and basically the interesting thing about the foods are that each of the types of foods that are involved are designed and were researched by Johns Hopkins University Medical Center. I have the specific site, but the bottom line is each of them has the proper amount of high-quality protein, carbohydrates, and healthy fats.
Mm-hmm.
They all have 24 minerals and vitamins, so you don't have to take pills, you don't take vitamins, you don't take supplements. It's all in the food. They are fast and on the go for the 5 meal replacements a day. And in combination, when you're eating all 6 of your meals, it gives you the total amount of protein, fats, carbohydrates that you need to operate. And the interesting part about the foods is that after a few days, what's a typical reaction is a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
As you start to lose weight quickly, you have a tremendous amount of energy. People feel terrific on it.
Well, that seems actually very important.
Yeah, just to give you an example of a follow-up of what you said before, there are so many different foods, but there's no specific time of the day where you're supposed to have what you quoted as a breakfast food.
Mm-hmm.
Any of the meal replacements can be eaten at any time of the day. Now, for me, myself, I like all the foods. Some people, I don't like this particular food. Well, he has 60 or 70 other choices.
Mm-hmm.
But my wife, who wanted to lose weight, loves chocolate. Well, there are 5 or 6 or quite a number of different chocolate products. She ate just the chocolate products. And every meal you feel like you're cheating, but you're not cheating at all because they're all properly designed. And she just loved being on the program because she thought they were delicious. But you've got so many different types of foods. You have cereals, you have pretzels, you have cheese puffs. And it sounds like they're snacky foods, but they're designed to keep you satisfied for 2 to 3 hours, and they all have the right amount of protein, carb, and fats, as I said before.
And Ken, what was it that prompted you to work with this weight loss system?
Well, our story, Jen's is a similar story, but I'll give you mine. I come from a very heavy family.
Mm-hmm.
My whole life I had a weight problem.
Mm-hmm.
And what thin people that are naturally thin don't understand, that it really is a struggle for your entire life. And I tried every diet. I read so many of the books. And I use the word diet specifically because I tried them all, and almost all of them, you can lose weight. Some of them you can lose quick. Some of them you lose slow. But I never really was educated as to what was causing me to be a heavy person. And when I found this program, actually it's Jen's parents who got me into it, that were friends of mine. He's a chiropractor and his wife. And they lost 110 pounds between them, he and his wife.
Wow.
So my wife, who's a thin person, she only wanted to lose 10 pounds, which she did on this program, said to me, why don't you try it, Ken? So I said, well, let me see if they keep it off. I literally waited a year, and when they kept the weight off, and they became certified coaches at this, as I ultimately did, I said, okay, sign me up. When they signed me up, I loved it, and I lost 60 pounds personally.
Wow.
Very, very fast.
Wow.
Very quick. It was remarkable. Now, some people say, well, fast weight loss is not healthy. That's not true according to the doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And this program, by the way, has a support group where you can call in and speak to a doctor. You can just listen or participate. There's one day a week, a specific time where you can call in and ask medical questions. You could speak to a nutritionist. You could speak to a nurse. There are support calls where you get tremendous amounts of help. We ourselves mail out a lot of recipes, tips, answer questions, and the unique part, as I said before, is the one-on-one coaching where you can establish communication with your personal coach whenever you want to. You set that up between yourselves. We coach people nationally throughout the country on email, on the telephone. My own family, my extended family is down over 500 pounds.
Wow. That's good.
But the key is they've kept it off. That's the key to success. And how do we keep it off? The reason is because we have individualized coaching. We find out from the individual person. We do a profile. We find out what's caused them in their mind to be heavy. And most people don't always know that. But we know that people have stress. People are stress eaters. What are your triggers? How much exercise do you get? And before we want people to sign up, as a matter of fact, we'll turn people down because a person tells me they're motivated less than a 7 out of 10 to start another program or try this program. I thank them. I say, I'll put you on a mailing list, but we're not ready for you to start yet because you're not ready. So if they're motivated, we then do a lengthy interview with them. I say lengthy. It doesn't take very long. It's just that there's a lot of questions, and we find out what their goals are, what they're looking to achieve from the program to see if this program is even right for them. And if it's a good fit and they're willing to be properly motivated and compliant, it's a very effective program.
For those of you,
during the program,
for those of you just tuning in to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network, we're speaking with Ken Oliver and Jennifer Martino, who have a weight loss program which has been very successful for Ken and Jennifer. And Ken is calling us, and Jennifer today calling us from New York. So Ken, your program works on health habits, which seems like a very good idea. And how can people find out more about your program?
Jen, why don't you tell them about the website that you set up for them to communicate with us?
Okay, so there's two ways that you guys can communicate with us. One way is you can send us an email, and the email is slimtime, 4, the letter U, @gmail.com, or you can go to sites.google.com/sites/slimtime, 4, U, /home.
Well, the first
one's
a
long
lot
one.
easier.
The first, okay.
It is. Just email us and we will send you the link out.
Okay, do me a favor. One more time, please. Yes, thanks.
The first one,
Okay.
Jen.
It's slimtime, 4, the letter U, @gmail.com.
Good, thank you. That actually was pretty simple. And because you work with food to help people remain slim, and you recommend the Small Meals Per Day program, is there any food that people consume that, in your opinion, really turns out to be a bad idea weight-wise and health-wise that you try to recommend your clients avoid?
Yeah, that's pretty simple. From my perspective, white flour products, refined sugar products, they're just the worst for you. As you've taught me for many years,
Yes.
Josh, because you were into this many decades ago, and I think this particular plan has perfected what you professed many years ago. The bottom line is the program is 3 stages, and during the first stage, which is the weight loss, there is literature that we want you to read. There is books, because we are going to educate the people. And the reason that many people have a weight problem is because they're just not educated on making the right choices, what to eat and what not to eat.
Right.
For instance, the first stage is the weight loss. When we get the weight off the people to get to their goal weight, the second stage we call transition. It's where people come off of the 5 meal replacements a day, and they're going to go back to regular food, but we want them to continue to eat 6 times a day to keep their blood sugar level proper and for them to avoid getting really hungry. When you get really hungry, your blood sugar level is dropped, and that's when you overeat. But during the first couple of stages, you are becoming educated as to the benefits of eating whole grains, the benefits of eating whole wheat flour, whole wheat grains for pastas, for instance, if you're going to eat pasta. Don't eat the white flour. Don't choose the foods that are regular sugar-laden in terms of refined sugar. Now, one thing that I emphasize, because the third stage is maintenance, we want you to keep the weight off. I don't think that it's good to ask somebody, never again in your life, or the rest of your life, should you eat anything with refined sugar. You go to a wedding, you go to a christening, a bar mitzvah, whatever is an affair, you want to eat the food that's there. They may not always be the right choice,
Right.
but you can have a piece of cake once in a while. You can have an ice cream. There are healthier choices, obviously, to make. However, if you so-called transgress, this program teaches you it's a one-shot deal. You go to that affair, but tomorrow and the next day, you're not going to be eating the wrong things. We teach people what their proper level of caloric intake is during the course of the education process, and you will realize that for your particular body, your particular metabolism, you need X amount of calories per day in order to maintain the weight. And what I learned, which was really enlightening to me, when I got down to my goal weight, I realized how sensitive our bodies are. And this is, I think, what I said before, where thin people don't really understand it. I found that if I overate just a little too much, a little bit, I saw a change in my body for the worse immediately within days. And I didn't realize how sensitive our body is, just like a regular car engine. If you put the good things into it, you get good results and it runs smoothly. You put bad stuff in, and you're going to have problems. So if my wife goes to an affair and has too much sugar, she knows it the next day. She doesn't have the energy levels that she normally would have after learning about this program. So, yes, we do teach people the proper things to eat and what to avoid.
Well, that actually sounds like very good information. And even though it's basic good information, people still do not know it. And once you teach them that, you've really done a good thing. You've really done a good thing.
Yeah.
And
we find that,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that we find that education process requires us to do less coaching as time goes on, as the people become more and more educated as to what's right, what's wrong, what's good for them, and what's bad for them. And they feel the difference. So it's a motivator to eat properly.
And what type of protein foods do you recommend in general for the clients?
Well, the standard meat, fish, and chicken or fowl is what we recommend for the lean and green meal a day. And we designate 5, 6, or 7 ounces, depending on which type you choose, a certain amount of salad, plus a certain amount of vegetable. We avoid putting on butter on vegetables. Everybody wants to have a slice of bread. We avoid all bread, as a matter of fact, for only the first stage. We start adding back in normal foods one at a time during the transition period and replace the meal replacements. I personally love a few of the different products, so I like having them around because they're so fast and convenient. For people on the go, these things are terrific. A snack bar satisfies me, keeps me happy and not hungry for 2 to 3 hours, and all it is tearing it open and eating it. For the other things, the bags I take with me, for instance, the pretzels, mustard pretzels, they're delicious. Cheese puffs are delicious. These are ready-made foods. They have puddings, chocolate pudding, vanilla pudding, teas, hot cocos, cappuccino. There's so many different kinds of shakes where you can make a thick shake or just shake it up and have it not as a thick shake. They have breakfast cereals, different flavors. There's crackers as a snack. We also allow people to have one snack per day in between meals if they feel the need, but they're designated snacks, and we tell them what to have. There's many choices of soups, oatmeals, pancakes, eggs, brownies even. You could bake your own brownies or blondie. That's why I said there's something for everybody while you're on the program. After the program's over, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to realize if you have something with refined sugar and white flour, it's not going to keep you full as long. It's going to make you hungry. And there are better choices to make even though you're not going to be on these particular foods. If you choose to be, they're inexpensive, so more power to you, but you don't have to be for the rest of your life.
And you mentioned when you first you mentioned when you first began the broadcast that this program that you and Jennifer recommend is, I'll use the word vetted or authenticated or authorized by Johns Hopkins University. So that is an important component as well.
Yeah, the research was done and approved. I'm looking for the full name. Jen, do you know that off the top of your head? If not, I'll find it. I have it in my
It's Johns
notes.
Hopkins Bloom's University of Health,
Yes.
And they
where the research is done.
they examined the program and found that just it worked scientifically for them, and they were happy to espouse it.
Yes.
Good.
As a matter of fact, these foods are not just thrown together. They're researched. And each year when we go to the national convention, they announce what new foods are being released that particular year or during the year. They have been 100% researched and determined to be effective and aid to the fast weight loss. I find it kind of amazing myself that I stay satisfied when I was on program for 2 to 3 hours, and I didn't think about food. Now, some people try to eat too little.
Mm-hmm.
They think the less you eat, the faster you're going to lose. And our bodies are a remarkable machine. It's actually the reverse. If you eat too few meals during the day, your body senses that it's going into starvation mode, and it'll slow its metabolism down, and you will lose slower.
Mm-hmm.
So we do recommend the 5 plus the 1 every day.
Well, that sounds good. And Ken and Jennifer, if you don't mind, once again, give me the name of the contact information so we can speak to you further.
It's slimtime, the number 4, U, at gmail.com.
And it's the letter U,
Alrighty.
correct?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so your program, again, you teach the clients ideas so for permanent weight loss. This is not just losing 10 pounds to go to a wedding. This is like people lose weight and they'll keep the weight off if they follow these, what you consider to be basic and important suggestions. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. It's called the Habits of Health System, and we utilize a book and a workbook. So it's not just reading about John Smith and Jane Doe. You're actually taking the information that you're learning from the workbook system, such as food triggers, learning about your behaviors, all of the emotions that go with it, sleep, inflammation for your body, an entire maintenance eating plan, and then you create that plan for yourself individually in the workbook. And so you create things where if you struggle with overeating at night, helps you break down why you're overeating at night and then creating a strategy to avoid that or make that not happen anymore.
Now, you also mentioned that you do counsel clients to avoid white sugar and white flour. What about the use of green or black teas or coffee or even alcohol? How does that work into the program?
Well, there's no alcohol consumption on the first stage of the plan.
Mm-hmm.
You can have coffee. We don't think that coffee is the greatest, but it's certainly not prohibited.
Mm-hmm.
We allow all no-calorie beverages, but the best, of course, is water, plus teas. But if you want coffee, that's fine on the first part of the program. People are even allowed to have diet sodas, which I'm sure you would say are not very good for you. They have the various chemicals and aspartame, which I don't think are particularly great for people. But we again don't tell people you can never have regular food or drinks again the rest of your life. But certain things are absolutely prohibited for the first stage. You can add some back slowly, one at a time, in the transition stage after you reach your goal weight. And by the third stage, we hope that people will not choose to eat unhealthy things. And there's quotes around the word unhealthy because depending on who you ask, you may get different answers as to what is unhealthy and what isn't unhealthy, even in the medical profession itself. Some doctors think that coffee's fine, others think it's terrible for you. And we don't profess to have all of those answers in this plan. We refer people to their own doctor if they have certain medical conditions to get approval before they start this program. Over 20,000 doctors have approved of the program during the course of its time.
Wow.
And yeah, it's remarkable because the doctors normally didn't have a really great tool for weight loss. They used a lot of pills. We don't use weight loss pills. We try to take a different approach to teach people the habits of health for a lifetime. It's a change in lifestyle. If people aren't willing to really educate themselves and understand if you're a heavy person and have a natural proclivity to be heavy. You lose weight on a diet and then you gain it back when you go off the diet, you're the type of person that must change your lifestyle to be successful at keeping thin your whole life. That's what we teach, and we teach people how to do it. In terms of exercise, if they are not a person who exercises, we say do not start an exercise program for 3 weeks into the program, because you are going to have a lower caloric intake than you're normally used to, and your body needs to adjust. After that 3-week period, the first thing we recommend is start walking. You don't have to walk 5 miles. Walk a block. The next week or tomorrow, try 2 blocks or 3 blocks. But eventually, exercise goes hand in hand with proper eating in order to maintain a healthy lifestyle. And I'll tell you, one of the most terrific feelings that I get and my wife get when we're out on the street and somebody runs up to us and hugs us, and it was a person that was on our program that lost a lot of weight, they now can do things they could never do before. It frees people. The really, really heavy people become trapped in their own house very often. They can't do sports. They can't do the things that they want to do. They don't even dance anymore. So for some people, it's a new lease on life. It changes their lifestyle. Other people, like my own relative, my niece, she lost over 100 pounds. She now is running half marathons, whereas before she didn't do any exercise.
Right.
And, it's just the feeling that you get when you help people like that is wonderful. That's the reason I became a certified coach. When I go to the National Convention and there are thousands of people that are in the audience, and we have 10, 20, 30, 40 people go on stage and tell their stories, the smiles that you see and the tears that you see, because they have completely changed their lives for the better, it's a wonderful feeling. And so most of the people that you see in the audience, of literally 5, 6, 7,000 people, most of them were successful at this program. And one of the things, and then they become certified coaches, because you cannot become a coach with our program unless you go through an education process and take an examination. But one of the things my wife loves best is when we're in the audience and the speaker says, anybody that has lost 10 pounds, stand up. And then people stand up. I'm sorry, they start with, I don't know, how does it go, Jen? They start with a high weight, but the bottom line is, I know what it is. Everybody stands up. And he says, anybody that's lost 10 pounds, 100 pounds, I'm screwing it up, but at the end, the bottom line is there's people that are remaining standing. There's only 2 or 3 people or 5 people in the audience that have lost 150 pounds.
Wow.
And it's just everybody keeps looking at each other when they're standing and then sit down smiling. And I went to the first program that Jen's dad had recommended me to learn about this program. And my wife and I walked out of the program. It was in Tarrytown, New York. And we looked at each other when we were walking back to our car, and we said, have you ever been in a group of happier people?
Wow.
And we said no. And that's when I decided to try it.
Well, that sounds very good. That sounds very good. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. We've been speaking with Ken Oliver and Jennifer Martino, who are calling in today from New York. I'd like to thank Ken and Jennifer. This is Josh Lane on the LA Talk Live radio network. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
your skin looks great.
Thank you.
What's your secret?
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence.
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence?
Yes, it's a beauty secret used since the time of the Greeks and Romans. The spa in Malibu told me about frankincense and myrrh by Ancient Essence, and now my skin is lovely.
Well, your skin looks great.
Call Ancient Essence at 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Call 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret. Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Available at fine spas and beauty centers.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to The Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Y'all ready for this?
Hi, I'm Jerry Bell of the Daz Band in New Birth.
And I'm Brahima Arsalan.
Inviting you to join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Time for Jerry Bell's R&B Soul Classics, baby.
Join us as we play some of the greatest hits of soul and R&B and listen in to interesting discussions with the legends of the music.
So don't you forget, join us on the Jerry Bell's R&B Soul Classics. You'll love it. Exclusively on latalklive.com.
You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio.
Or watch us and listen directly at latalklive.com, baby.
Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure.
This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk, baby. We are music.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
Hello, thank you guys for staying with us. If you're watching us on the internet, you probably noticed that Joshua Lane looks a little different. That's because I am James Berry and I'm a guest interviewing today. Very happy to be here and happy to have our guest interviewer today. Or I'm the interviewer, but the person I'm interviewing is Margaret Floyd. She's a nutritional therapy practitioner. She's certified GAPS practitioner and healing food specialist. And she's author of Eat Naked and the Naked Foods Cookbook. Margaret, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So today we are talking, one of the beautiful things about this show is Josh shares health. All aspects of health. And so you will possibly hear in our time that we're about to talk right now some contradictions from what other people have shared. And that's the beautiful thing, is health is all relative and there's lots of different options out there. So today we wanted to take the time to really talk about a topic that is, in my judgment, really misunderstood, and that's sugar. And a lot of times when you hear sugar, you think of candy bars, you think of literal white sugar, cane sugar. But please talk to us about, before we even get into the sugar, why don't you share a little bit about your relationship to sugar?
Absolutely. So I have a long, sordid history with sugar. There was a time in my life, in my mid-20s, where I could not fathom a day without sugar. I couldn't fathom hours without sugar, let alone a day without sugar. And at that time, I was very much defining it as sweets. You know, me and chocolate.
Right.
We were like this. And so, you know, it was actually funny. Energy spikes and realize that I was completely addicted to it and totally hypoglycemic. And what would happen is I'd be in a meeting and I'd be all dynamic and interactive and on it. And then I would just kind of fade out. And I would almost not even realize it was happening, but all of a sudden my brain would turn to mush and I just couldn't function. And my colleagues got so tuned into what was going on that they would just gently slide a little piece of chocolate in front of me. I would eat it, bing, right back, and everything was good again. And this was actually a really big problem that I didn't realize at the time. But as to say, I mean, I could not have survived those afternoons without my sugar hit. Chocolate typically.
And so what you're describing to us, just in case everyone doesn't know what hypoglycemic is the effects of hypoglycemia, correct?
Basically, that means that you have such low blood sugar and your body cannot rescue you from this situation. You can't get out of that blood sugar situation without help.
Right.
And the easiest and fastest thing to get you out of that situation is sugar, which of course, unfortunately, just perpetuates the situation.
Right, which creates the up, down throughout your day. Correct. Well, so that is great. So now let's talk about, we're talking about sugar and you're mentioning chocolate, but really sugar is not just candy bars and pure, cane sugar, right?
Yeah, no, that's what I came to learn is that at the time, I knew that I couldn't live without sugar, but I didn't realize that sugar was hiding in pretty much everything I was eating. So if I'd start out for breakfast, for example, I had my multigrain bagel with low-fat cream cheese and maybe a piece of fruit, a glass of orange juice, probably some coffee, and pretty much everything that I just described, with the exception of the cream cheese, although without fat in it really didn't help. Basically everything converted to sugar almost as quickly as actual spoonfuls of plain white sugar in my blood. So what was happening is, even though I hadn't started on the chocolate yet, as I was already getting this crazy sugar spike, which then inevitably would lead to a big sugar crash and a state of emergency, according to my body, which required more sugar. So it's hiding in everything from, any kind of starch. So I like to talk about it in terms of starch as opposed to sugar, because we think of sugar, we think of desserts, exactly as you just said. But sugar is really, or anything that will spike your blood sugar, which means it's going to convert to sugar really quickly in your blood. Things like any kind of grain, potatoes, fruit, even dairy to a certain extent, especially if you have low-fat dairy, because one of the things that the fat does is it actually slows down that sugar spike. So that skim milk latte that I was having wasn't doing me any good. It was actually just exacerbating the problem.
Right. Isn't that funny how in the, the early 90s, I remember all that no-fat, fat-free craze that was going on, right? But yet if you look at the numbers, the country actually got more fat during that period.
Well, the problem is when you take fat out of food, it doesn't taste very good anymore. So we had to add something back in, and typically that something was sugar. And now, from a pure calorie perspective, you would think, well, that seems like a good trade-off because fat has more calories than sugar. But how your body is actually working with those calories is an entirely different thing. So I want to give everyone a little bit of a biology lesson here, and I'll be really brief and simple with this, but I think it's really important to understand how sugar works in your body. So your body has a very narrow range within which it needs to maintain its blood sugar. Anything too high or too low is a real state of emergency for your body. And in an ideal situation, when you have a nice balanced breakfast, that blood sugar level is going to go up nice and gently. As it approaches that upper limit, we've all heard of that hormone insulin, right? So insulin basically tells your body to shuttle any extra sugar out of your blood and store it for later use. So you're going through your day, anything extra has been stored. Your blood sugar starts to dip a little bit because you're using this energy in your body. And when it gets to that lower level, there's another hormone that comes into play. And this is one we don't hear about very much, but it's just as important, if not more important, than insulin. And it's called glucagon. And glucagon's job is to take that sugar that you've stored and put it back into your blood between meals, kind of like as a stopgap until you're able to have your next meal. And you and your body in this kind of situation, you don't notice a thing. You just feel good. You eat a meal and you might not get a crazy high, but your energy is just good. It's even, it's steady, and you don't have that crazy crash like I used to get. You don't suddenly tune out in the middle of a meeting, or you don't get that, if I don't need something right now, I'm going to hurt someone, right? So what happens when we have too much sugar and hiding in all of these grains and all of these starches that we're eating is we go way above that upper limit. And so our body has to this is a big state of emergency. So our pancreas is pumping out insulin, just insulin, trying to get this sugar out of the blood. And what happens is we have so much insulin now in our blood trying to get us back down is that we have an equal and opposite reaction. Now we have the crash. And we all know what this feels like. If you've ever eaten dessert, you know what this feels like. You have a spike, you have a crash. This is what's going on in your body. Too much sugar, lots of insulin. Now, too little sugar, because now it goes way below that low level.
Well, most people experience it after lunch, right? They eat their lunch and then they start to feel more and more tired, and some of them may even take cat naps at work.
Yeah, it's a sure sign that the ratio of carbohydrates to proteins to fats is off. If you eat a meal and you feel like you need a nap right afterwards, that's not a good sign. You should eat a meal and actually feel invigorated and feel like you have more energy. And that energy should be lasting you several hours, not just 2 hours. And then you're just, clawing, trying to make it until you can go grab that chocolate bar and coffee.
So for those that are just joining us, you're on LA Talk Live, and we're on the show Here's to Your Health, and I am not Joshua Lane. I'm James Barry, and I am interviewing Margaret Floyd. She's a nutritional therapist practitioner, and we're talking about sugar. So what does someone do about it? What can we do?
Well, the most important thing to do is to pull out anything that can cause one of these sugar spikes out of the diet. And that sounds simple. It is a little bit of work.
There is sugar in everything. And you mentioned, so sugar is not just literal sweetener sugar. We're talking starches, grains.
Yeah.
It's in everything.
Something that's really interesting that a lot of people don't realize is 2 slices of whole wheat bread send your blood sugar spiking higher than a tablespoon of white sugar. We don't realize that. We think it's whole wheat.
Right.
Now, what whole wheat means is that, there's a little bit more nutrition in there. Does not slow down the impact on your blood sugar. I mean, marginally, but really nothing that's worth mentioning. So all of this stuff is contributing to this problem.
Yeah, so this is really potentially a very different way for people to be thinking because, for example, the last show was talking about, eating your whole grains, right? But here we're saying actually it doesn't matter if it's white, brown, whatever color, it's a grain, and thus it becomes sugar in your body.
We need to be really, really careful and minimal with the grains, absolutely. And in fact, what we like to do with clients is to actually, so I talked about that big spike and that crash. Mm-hmm. We like to pull out anything and everything that could possibly lead to that spike. And we do this for 2 weeks. We call this the sugar control detox. And what happens is because we've wiped out anything that could create that spike, now we're kind of forcing the body. It's almost like a chiropractic adjustment for your blood sugar handling system. Now we're kind of forcing the body into that more gentle ebb and flow. And once we've knocked out the spike, we've knocked out a lot of reasons for the crash. And so over the course of these 2 weeks, typically by the end of the first week, and I will be completely honest here, there are a few days in there that hurt. They're not happy days because it is a big adjustment for your body. And we do it aggressively like this because you can do it bit by bit by bit by bit. But honestly, it prolongs it, and the taste of sweet, it's not nearly as effective in my books. I like to just go in there, do it. By the second week, you're feeling fabulous. You don't have these sugar cravings anymore. Your energy is nice and even. None of these crazy spikes, none of those crashes, most importantly. And a nice little side benefit of this is that most people lose a significant amount of weight because the thing is this spike and crash cycle at each end, those hormones, insulin and glucagon, and what I didn't mention is that at that crash point, your adrenals get involved. All of these hormones are fat storage hormones. So this is not putting your body in a place where it can shed weight easily. And it's not using fat as a source of fuel, which it is. It's a very important source of fuel.
Right. Instead of it's using the sugar. So I have actually worked on this program with you. And so I have actually heard and seen the effects, and it's phenomenal. I mean, men lose between 5 and 16 pounds. Women, of course, lose weight a little slower. Why is it that women lose weight slower?
Just the blessings of being a woman. Our metabolism just goes a little bit more slowly, especially the older we get. So, but you're right, men, it tends to just drip off of them. And when I see couples do this, the women always get a little annoyed, but they do definitely see results. Sometimes the women need to stay on it for a third week. And one of the nice things about doing this kind of a program is that by the end, you've actually recalibrated your taste buds. So something that you would have eaten before the sugar control detox, you'll eat it before and it tastes good. Sweet, maybe it's a piece of candy, maybe it's brownie, whatever it is, it tastes good. You try to eat that same thing after you have had no sugar and no taste of sugar, because we even take out things that have no caloric impact and that are natural sweeteners, things like stevia, xylitol, anything like that is, could be considered healthful sweeteners. They're still kind of teasing your tongue, and there is some evidence that just the taste of sweet will actually cause that spike in insulin. So we pull all of that out. So by the end, the taste of something that's that sweet is way too much. And what you'll find is you'll eat a red pepper and discover this incredible sweetness in the red pepper that you never even knew existed because you were so oversaturated with all the other stuff you're eating.
Yeah, I love that because we're really pushing people to eat local, seasonal foods. And when you're buying things from your local farmer's market, the food is just naturally, the quality of food is so beautiful and tasty. But you're so desensitized by all the processed foods you're eating, you can't really enjoy the flavors. So that's a really great plus. Now, I love hearing from clients when they're on this, because of course you can't drink alcohol when you're on it. Yeah. And so a lot of them say, oh, well, I usually go out and I have about 3 drinks a night. And then they do the 14-day program and they can barely finish 1 drink. I seem to remember that was your situation, right? You could barely finish a glass of wine.
We're revealing everything here. Yes, absolutely. I do love my wine, but after sugar control, I can barely drink it. Yeah, and that's something important to mention too, is that alcohol is basically sugar. So you might think, I don't crave sugar. I don't have a problem. I don't like dessert. Well, do you crave breads? Do you crave pasta? Do you crave that glass of wine at the end of the day? Really, all of those things it's the same thing. It's just showing up in different ways based on your tastes.
Right. So we're really blowing the doors off of the idea of what is sugar and how does your body respond to the foods that you eat. So this is a 14-day program. How do people, obviously you work with clients privately and in groups, but can someone in Louisville, Kentucky, can they do it?
Absolutely. We actually do a group cleanse. So we have hundreds of people all over the country, in fact, all over the world, who come together to do this online. If you want more information about this, go to sugarcontroldetox.com. So that's sugarcontroldetox.com. And we have the next one coming up. We're going to be opening registration for it in April. And the cleanse starts actually in May. And what we do is we have a whole support team for you as you go through this. We have lots of videos. We have lots of handouts, a full meal plan that is based out of this cookbook. So you'll get a digital version of the cookbook with delicious and easy recipes.
And that's the Naked Foods cookbook. Right.
And you'll also get invited to a private Facebook group where we're on there giving all sorts of support in terms of how to modify recipes, where to find certain ingredients, supporting you through. I mentioned there's a few rough days. It's typically days 3 to 5 for most people, maybe a bit headachy, a bit groggy, kind of really struggling to switch over to more of the fat burning from the carb burning.
Yeah, people can be a little ornery during those days.
Yeah, we got a little ornery stuff going on, so we can support each other and be grumpy together. And we also have 4 live coaching calls. So this is led by my associate, Lisa Thompson, who's also an amazing nutritional therapy practitioner, and she'll be leading these 4 calls. And so it's a great way to do it because you have that support of other people going through the same thing at the same time. And we have done this both ways. We do a lot of this work privately, and we've also now started to do these group cleanses. And we have found people are way more successful in the group setting because they have that kind of peer-to-peer support.
And again, so what's the website for the actual sugar control program?
It's sugarcontroldetox.com.
And so now you actually have a practitioner service, right? Correct. It's in Los Angeles, but it also can serve people around the world. What is that? What's the name of your company? And
so my company is called Eat Naked, and you can find us at eatnakednow.com. And we see clients, myself and Lisa, we see clients from all over the world. If you're here in LA, you can come into the office. It's in West Hollywood. If you are elsewhere, we do a lot of work by Skype and by phone as well.
Great. Well, so once again, we're talking about sugar. You're on LA Talk Live on Here's to Your Health. I'm James Berry. We're talking with Margaret Floyd. So you had described the typical breakfast that most people have, or typical day of food. You had mentioned the bagel, and then you have a sandwich sometimes during the day, and people then have maybe pasta and bread at night.
Don't forget that chocolate and coffee in the afternoon.
Chocolate and coffee, correct. So you kind of describe that idea of the sugar, how it's all in every meal people are eating, whether they realize it or not.
Absolutely.
So give us an idea of what is a day in the life of sugar control detox. How would someone eat when they're on the sugar control detox?
So we're going back to real whole foods here. So breakfast would look like a couple of eggs scrambled in either some butter or coconut oil. And I know those might sound like scary words because they're fat. And not only are they fat, but they're saturated fat. But they are really actually good for you, especially if they're from really good sources. So you want to be looking for organic. If it's butter, you want it to come ideally from grass-fed cows, but definitely at a minimum organic. So a couple of eggs, sauteed in either some butter or coconut oil with a bunch of veggies. And a lot of people think, veggies? I wouldn't want veggies for breakfast. But actually, it takes a little getting used to, but it is very filling. We will do things like add in a little bit of butternut squash. So you get a little bit of that, that's a little more starchy than some of the other vegetables, but it's not going to do the same kind of impact on your blood sugar as a piece of toast or some hash browns would have.
Right.
And then now, we do encourage snacks, especially on the sugar control program. So, down the road, you'd be able to wean yourself from the snacks, but at first it's important to help you through these crashes. So something could be as simple as a handful of nuts and half an apple, or a couple of celery sticks and maybe some avocado. So you always want to have something that's a little bit fatty, maybe some protein in there. You want to veer away from the starches again. Lunch could be a big old salad with maybe some chicken, maybe some fish, maybe some grass-fed beef. Always have that salad dressing because you need the fat. Now, this is actually a really important point. I just want to digress for one moment. One of the things we're doing here is we're switching your body from primarily burning carbohydrates as a fuel source to more fat burning. That sounds good, right? Because we want to burn fat.
Yeah.
And we really need to not be afraid of fats. In fact, fat is actually the preferred source of fuel for our bodies. It's just we never give it the chance. And a great analogy for this is if you think about it like a fire, carbs and starches are like the kindling, and fats are like the logs. You would never try to stoke your fire all day with kindling, right? It would burn hot, die out. Burn hot, die out. But that's exactly what we're doing.
You'd be spending a lot of time at your fireplace if you were doing that.
Well, and that's what we do. We're always needing snacks. We're always needing that pick-me-up because it's exactly the energy patterns we're in. We need to get that log back in there, and we need to give our body the chance to actually use it for fuel. If we keep giving it quick energy from the starches, we never actually give our body an opportunity to use the fat as a fuel. So that's a really key thing that's happening here is you actually do eat more fat than you probably would normally. A lot of people are on this kind of high starch, low fat diet. So it might feel, maybe from a calorie perspective, this is more, but kind of amazingly, the body recalibrates, starts using this fat as a fuel, and the pounds just go.
Well, I love the fact that I think it was just last year, I think it was Weight Watchers.
Mm-hmm.
They admitted to the world that they had been doing it wrong. And I love that they admitted that, but what they admitted was that they said a calorie is not just a calorie.
Yeah.
They said we have been counting the calorie of a cookie is the same as the calorie of an apple, and that just isn't true, right?
It's not. You really have to look at how your body is going to be using that calorie. And that's why it's not just about, that's why I can eat a bunch of fat and not actually get fat. But if I eat a whole handful of sugar, especially low fat, like a dessert, that is actually going to create more weight gain.
Right. So that could be potentially very different thinking for a lot of you out there. But you've worked with hundreds of people on this, right?
And we have a 100% success rate. It's really interesting the kinds of things that clear up for people. So at a minimum, they lose weight. They get their energy back. And they get this nice, clean, steady energy as opposed to this kind of manic energy that needs to be constantly fueled, which is really nice. We all want, steady, grounded energy. And other things that start to happen, they sleep better, their skin looks better. If they have digestive problems, for a lot of people, the digestive problems resolve because when we're taking out the starches digest very differently from proteins and fats. And from a food combining perspective, when you have a protein and you have a starch trying to digest at the same time, unless you've got a really robust digestive system, and frankly, most people don't, then it causes problems. So digestive issues will clear up. Really, people with chronic headaches suddenly find their headaches go away. Now, one of the things we do too is we pull out all of the common allergens. So this is actually an opportunity for people to identify if they have a food sensitivity. So that's one of the reasons why people, this is in a lot of ways an anti-inflammatory diet. It's a hypoallergenic diet. So it's doing all sorts of things at the same time. But its primary goal is to help you get off that sugar once and for all.
And in 14 days, that's not that long of a time.
No. And a lot of people go on longer, not because they haven't gotten the results, but because they feel so good. And they realize, you don't need any of the things that we cut out. You don't actually need. And we do have a very clear and helpful transition plan to walk you through how to reintegrate some of these things back into your diet and how to test and see, okay, grains, for example, a lot of people have gluten sensitivity that they don't even know. How do you test for that since you've taken gluten out of your diet for 2 weeks? Because, of course, gluten, the wheat protein, that's a grain. So we've taken it out for 2 weeks. This is a really good opportunity to challenge your body and see if you have a sensitivity to it. So we're able to help people identify any of those kinds of sensitivities. And if you are eating something chronically that your body doesn't like, that's going to exacerbate all sorts of other conditions from an immune perspective. That can increase your toxic burden, and toxic burden can increase your body's desire to hang on to extra calories. So, it deals with all of these different pieces.
Well, that's great. So 14 days, they're losing weight, they're feeling great, and they're experiencing what is called an elimination diet as well. So they're seeing what allergens their bodies may be sensitive to. That's pretty incredible. So will you tell us again where the listeners and viewers can access the Sugar Control Detox?
Absolutely. It's at sugarcontroldetox.com. And if you want more information and some great recipes and all sorts of free articles, you can also check out my site, which is eatnakednow.com.
That's wonderful. So again, we're talking to Margaret Floyd. She's a nutritional therapist practitioner. She's author of the book Eat Naked and the co-author of the book The Naked Foods Cookbook, who I am also a co-author of. So check out those books. Definitely check out Margaret's site, eatnakednow.com. What Margaret does on her site that is phenomenal is give you some free information. So they have blogs, they have writings about topics. Like one of your big topics was about grapeseed oil, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that got a lot of press on that one. The idea of whether you want to cook with grapeseed oil or not.
Oh, yeah. So
I'll let you go read it yourself.
Definitely go to her website to check that out. There's some phenomenal stuff. It's free. The cookbooks are online. Where can they get the cookbook or your book, Eat Naked?
Easiest place is Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com or Powell's.com if you want to support the independents. You can also pick it up at pretty much any major booksellers, and we also have links to all of these places on my website, eatnakednow.com.
Well, thank you so much for joining us at LA Talk Live and Here's to Your Health. Again, this is Margaret Floyd, nutritional therapist practitioner, and I'm James Berry. Thank you so much.
This is Brett Chapin.
And this is Dorothy Dillingham Blue, inviting you to join us every Saturday at noon Pacific Standard Time for our show, La La Land Talk.
Join us as we talk with some of the top talent in LA. Artists' untold stories, your phone calls, and live on-location broadcasts have made La La Land one of the best sources in LA for everything entertainment.
So don't forget to tune in to La La Land Talk.
Exclusively on latalklive.com.
You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com.
Saturdays at noon Pacific Time. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/LaLaLandTalk, Twitter, twitter.com/LaLaLandTalk. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live.
And we are more than just talk. I think we've got a Shakespeare monologue or two we could do. Yeah.
Jazz hands.
Kickball change.
Good
That's
stuff.
what I'm saying. Mm-hmm.
I'll do some Pippin.
Ooh, yeah. Some miming. I'm in a box. I'm in a box. I'm in a box.
Hello, I'm Joel Ramirez.
And I'm Lolita Robinson Coppage, and welcome to Joy in My House
on LATalkLive.com. Inspirational radio
with a touch of recovery.
A reality show where nothing is left unsaid
and no one is insignificant who says it.
Exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV.
Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, I'm Ro Williams, and I would like to invite you to join GospelRhythms.com every Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our show, GospelRhythms.com Talk Live Radio. Join us as we celebrate Christians around the world in all genres of entertainment, as well as highlight interest stories on men and women who are making a difference and impacting their community. So don't forget to tune in to GospelRhythms.com Talk Live Radio, exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes under R&B or watch us live on Ustream TV. We are reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is GospelRhythms.com Talk Live Radio on LATalkLive.com. We're more than just talk. We're heaven's party here on earth.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back, and you're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. In this segment, James and Margaret are going to prepare some lovely, intelligent, good-tasting, high-protein, low-calorie foods. James and Margaret, take it away.
Thank you so much, Josh. It's a pleasure to be here. So we were just talking about in the last segment about sugar and how sugar is not exactly what you may think it to be. Margaret, can you just give a brief synopsis of that?
Yeah, so when we think about sugar, we're not just talking about dessert. We're talking about anything that converts to sugar quickly in the blood. So anything starchy like breads, pastas, crackers, cereals, bagels, fruit, alcohol. So we're talking a much broader spectrum. And today, one of the things we're going to talk about is my craving, which is pasta, and a great way to use veggie substitutes for pasta without that sugar spike.
Right, because that's the problem is that you tell people, oh, well, sugars and grains and starches and, of course, literal cane sugar and sweeteners. And they say, well, then what can I eat? Because everything has starch or grain or sugar in it. And pasta, as you mentioned, is one of them. So what I love introducing to people to is squash, particularly winter squash. And here is one of them. This is a spaghetti squash. And for those that aren't able to see, it kind of looks like what would you say, like a really, really large eggplant, but it's yellow. So size-wise, it's just very, very large. Almost looks like a Fabergé egg, right? Sure. But it's yellow. And what you can do is I'm going to show you the insides in a second, and it's a fabulous squash. But what you can do is you can there's three ways to cook it. You can leave it whole. So you would preheat your oven at around 375, between 375 395. If it's a little hotter, then you're going to be cooking it a little less. You can leave it whole and put it right on the rack, and I did that in this one right here, and you can even see the rack grooves.
This is definitely the easiest way to do it.
No, just pull off the sticker that's usually on the outside, of course. And then you can also slice it in half. Now, that may be difficult because when the squash is not cooked and it's just in its raw state, you may have a tough time if your knife's not sharp. So that's why it may be easiest to leave it whole, put it in the oven. That might be the safest option as well. However, if you do want to cut it in half, what you can do is put it in the oven whole for about 5 minutes. It will start to soften and it will be easier to slice in half. Slice it in half. You can now put it up, facing up, so the cut side is faced up, or you can put it face down. If you're putting it face down, you're going to want to put it on a tray. And that is it. And then you want to cook it between, depending on the size of the spaghetti squash, you're cooking it for between 20 and 35 minutes.
And how do they know when it's done?
So the way you know is you can press on it, just like I am now, and it moves. And it feels squishy inside, but you don't want it to be mushy. So there is a fine line, because mushy, it's so funny. So many clients I know, and just people in general, they'll tell me, I don't really like spaghetti squash. And I'll say, well, who cooked it and how did you cook it? Because was it mushy? And they said, oh yeah. I said, well, if you cook it correctly, you want to make it al dente. You've heard that term before with spaghetti. Well, it's the same thing with squash. So you want it to be a little firm. You want it to have a little bit of a crunch. And when you cook it like that, oh, Nelly, it is so good. So I'm going to show you how this one has already been cooked. I am just cutting it in half. And, to play it safe, you can start just cutting one half, flipping it over, and then cutting the other half, because these are big squashes, and you don't want to get in a situation where you are, could cut yourself. So here we go. This is the squash inside. Now, if you look at it, it has seeds just like a pumpkin would, but you can kind of already tell by how I've cut it here that this one is stringy. And it looks just like spaghetti. It's gorgeous. And so what you do is I brought a bowl, and I'm just going to basically scoop this out using a fork. Now, the fork will just help to kind of maintain the integrity of that spaghetti, but you can just see this.
Why don't you turn it a little bit?
Yeah, it's so amazing. I mean, just look at it. It's coming right out, and it looks literally just like spaghetti. Now, you would scoop out the seeds first. I'm not doing that right now, but you would do that first, and then just use your fork to get it out.
Now, as I said already, pasta is my thing. And as a pasta lover, I can tell you that this actually does an amazing job of reproducing spaghetti. And in fact, one of the things that Chef James has taught me is that you toss this with a little bit of olive oil, a couple of sun-dried tomatoes chopped up, and maybe a little bit of kale or something green. And you toss that and then put whatever sauce you would be putting on your spaghetti. Otherwise, it can be a nice marinara sauce. Absolutely. It can be, maybe have some turkey meatballs or some normal meatballs, whatever it is you're going to put on top of it.
It's a real 1-for-1 ratio. Just
really.
However you treat spaghetti, that's how you would treat this. So whatever sauce, whatever ingredients you put usually with your spaghetti. Now, I don't know if the mic's going to pick it up, but we're going to attempt to do this. This is probably the first time that this has ever happened on the Joshua Lane Show. We're going to try to hear the crunch of the spaghetti squash.
That sounds al dente.
Right? So that is that you want it to be crunchy, and I stress, mushy is not always how you want, it's mushy works for some things and not for others. And personally, I don't like it for my spaghetti squash. So that is just one option. So that is literally the easiest substitute for spaghetti.
This is so if you're trying to lose a bit of weight and you want to cut that starch and that hidden sugar out of your diet, like we were talking about in the last segment, then this is a great solution for that. It's also really great. A lot of people are sensitive to either gluten or to grains generally. So if you're on a grain-free diet, this is a great way to actually substitute that spaghetti kind of feeling.
That's really great. So, and this is not always, you can find this pretty much most of the year, but there is a season for it. Most likely, if you're seeing it in your store year round, then it's probably not organic. But what would you say the season is? Right around starting September to about March. Yeah. You'll start seeing. Now, the beautiful thing about winter squashes is you could buy them, let's say in October when you start to see the pumpkins and all the different squashes, buy a bunch of them. They will store in a cold space for possibly the entire year. Yeah. No joke.
That's how our ancestors did it.
Yeah.
Cold storage. Doesn't necessarily have to be as cold as your fridge, but cool. So, a nice cool, dark cupboard or something.
Yeah, pretty amazing. So don't feel like if you have bought some squashes that you have to use them immediately. You can really store them and use them year round. So that's just one option. Instead, if you want to get away from eating the starch of spaghetti. Now, a lot of people are getting kind of acclimated to spaghetti that's not just made from the normal kind of starch or pasta.
Like semolina flour.
Yeah,
We're
so
talking
semolina is the
gluten-free.
one that everyone's used to. Now you're seeing gluten-free. And as you were saying earlier, that's not necessarily better.
Well, it doesn't have gluten in it. So if you have a gluten sensitivity, then it's a good substitute. But from the perspective of weight loss, it's not going to do you any better. You know, it's kind of a myth that we have about gluten-free foods. A lot of people think, well, if I'm gluten-free, then I'm going to lose weight. But if you're just substituting those gluten-free carbs with or those gluten-containing carbs with gluten-free carbs, then it's still carbs. It's still going to react in terms of your blood sugar handling and that fat storage hormone we were talking about.
So it doesn't
exact
matter
same
if
impact.
it's made of quinoa or whole wheat or what's the
brown
other?
rice
millet.
or
Sometimes you see brown rice.
Corn.
Yeah, corn. Yeah. So you're seeing all these newfangled pastas. But that doesn't necessarily mean they are healthier for you when you're looking at it from a blood sugar perspective. So the other thing that you can do is you can actually buy one of these things. So this is a mandolin. There's a few different types. This is a heavy duty American, I guess, or European mandolin. There's also a Japanese mandolin, which is just flat and it's made of hard plastic, and it's a lot cheaper. So this is kind of more if you're going to be doing stuff like this all the time. We have some recipes in the Naked Foods cookbook that uses this. But if you're not going to do it that often, the Japanese mandolin is fine, and it's probably about $30 versus $70 or more for this one. But so what this is this is just a easy way, easy way to cut things. So you can cut things into strings. You can cut things into kind of almost like flat noodles if you wanted to recreate lasagna. So I'm going to just show you. Here's a butternut squash. Now, normally I would just peel it, but I didn't bring my peeler and I didn't bring it peeled. So I just cut the edges off, and there's still some skin on there, but that's okay for the purposes of showing you. You don't necessarily want to eat the skin, though. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. Now, for those that are not used to mandolins, you want to use the Safeguard. I am fairly used to it, but I'm still going to use it just so you can see that even the best of us always want to play it safe.
Especially if you're someone like me and you tend to grate your fingers every time you grate your carrots or cheese.
Really important because these blades are very sharp. And so what this mandolin has on it right now is it has a blade like this. I left out a couple of them. These are different size blades, but as you can kind of see, they all have like little shark's teeth on them. And then there's another blade on here that has a flat, almost like razor blade on it. So between the two blades, we're going to create some vegetable noodles. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to push it across the device. And then obviously as it gets closer, you want to use the Safeguard. And there we go. You'll see now I have noodles from a butternut squash that kind of look like
Pad Thai.
Yeah, the Pad Thai noodles, if you like Thai food. They're a little flat and a little wide. Now I could change the size of those noodles. Now the important thing if you're gonna make noodles like this is they do cook very fast. So don't treat this like you would spaghetti. This is not a 7-minute or more process. These would cook in possibly 1 minute.
So any time that you lose in actually using the mandolin, you end up saving in cooking time. So net time, you actually end up, it doesn't take that much longer,
really
especially
not.
once you've used the mandolin a couple of times and you're used to it. It looks like this might be very labor intensive, but honestly, once you've done it once or twice, it's actually very fast. And as James said, the actual cook time reduces down to almost nothing.
Yeah, and it's really easy to clean as well. And one thing I love about it is, so I brought this just to showcase. So I brought some broccoli, and the stalk that everyone usually, when they buy the broccoli, they get that stalk. They usually just chop that off. Now, sadly, this one I just happen to have. Well, actually, here's a good example. I got this at a market, and they had already cut off the stalk. Okay, but if you can get the whole stalk, what you can do is that part that most people disregard, you can use on the mandolin, and you can cut it just like we did the butternut squash and steam it and cook it just like you would all the other vegetables.
And if you notice already, you're getting an aesthetically quite a beautiful meal going on here. If you wanted to combine the butternut squash with the broccoli stems, you get that tri-colored pasta. Well, we're doing the same thing basically here, except we're doing it all with real whole foods. There's nothing processed about this. Absolutely nothing processed. It's just vegetables. And a really cool thing is that you can sneak this by kids.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll love it. So
It's
if you're
true.
trying to get more veggies into your kids, this is actually a really great way to do it.
Well, something that a lot of people don't talk about with food is the psychological aspect, right? So the pasta is not just a physical reaction, but there's also psychological. Maybe you grew up on it, you associate it with, comfort food. This pasta, this style of pasta, these vegetable pasta examples we're giving you, that will provide the psychological aspect of pasta. Yeah. It will. So you may not have the exact same flavor or the same texture of the pasta you have from, that you normally have where that has a lot of starch in it, but you will get the psychological part, and that piece is huge.
Well, and you mentioned flavor, and something that's really interesting is, we were talking about that sugar control detox in the last segment, and we actually did it for about a month and a half at the beginning of this year. And as I said, I love my pasta. And so we ate a lot of these kind of veggie noodles. And what was really interesting is when we kind of weaned ourselves off and we went out for an indulgent meal, it's a nice restaurant, and I ordered pasta from the menu because it was my big cheat day, and it was amazing. It tasted like nothing. Yeah. And you realize that once you start eating, this way of preparing quote unquote pasta, not only is it better for you health wise, but it actually has so much more flavor that then going back to the, real stuff or the usual stuff, I should say, is disappointing.
Yeah. What I love about it too is many of you might be familiar with that, undo the top button of your pants, after you eat a big pasta dinner, and particularly those of us men who have a little bit of a gut, your gut gets even bigger and you just feel a little bloated. Well, you don't feel that way after you eat this. And I love that. And I almost get addicted to that because when I go to have that pasta on that cheat day or something like you were saying, I don't like the way I feel. And I guess that's kind of the point is when you're eating that sugar controlled detox style which is a sustainable diet, you start to realize how your body feels on the other type of food, the food that you're getting rid of during the 14 days or beyond. And I got to say, I really like how my body feels when I'm not eating that stuff. But let us continue showing you some more examples because hopefully you're getting a lot of value from this. So here is a zucchini. I've cut off each end. Technically, you can eat the ends as a zucchini. That's where those zucchini squash flowers come from that you
blossoms that you see at the farmer's market.
That you fill with, cheeses or whatnot. So I cut the ends, and I can once again put this in here, and I can string it. And boom. And if I used a different slicer, it'd be even thinner. It might look like vermicelli spaghetti. I can do that. But once again, here it is. And this cooks so fast. There's no waiting, no wait time for this. It cooks really fast. Now here's the other trick. Let's just say, we talked about lasagna earlier, right? Let's just say you now want to make lasagna. But you want to apply these same principles of not using the pasta noodles. So here's my zucchini. I've taken out the blade that has the shark teeth on it, and now I just have the flat blade in it, okay? And I'm now going to run it across the device, and I now have vegetable noodles. And these can literally be laid out as you're making your lasagna, which we actually have a recipe in the Naked Foods cookbook. You can lay it out just like you would your pasta noodles, and you don't have to be restricted to just zucchini. You can do it with yellow squash. You can do it with an eggplant, which I'm about to show you right now.
And you don't have to pre-cook it. So if you like those no-cook oven-ready noodles, this is even better because there's absolutely no cooking required until it goes into the oven.
And it's, once again, extremely delicious. And I love not telling people when I make this lasagna that there are no noodles in it. And I don't think I've ever had anyone say, are there noodles? They actually think that the vegetables are the noodles. They really do. It's amazing. I get tricky like that. So watch this. So we have now some eggplant noodles. And it's really, you can get crafty. You can do this with daikon. You can do this with carrots. The key is when you make the noodles, you just want to control how you can control on the mandolin. You can actually make this kind of higher or lower. So the thickness of the of how you cut it is what you want to control. And you ideally want all the vegetables you're mixing together to have a similar thickness, because if they don't, then they're going to cook differently. Now that is also another important piece to this, is that every one of these vegetables cooks differently, even if they are the same size, just because of the way the vegetable is. So for example, the stalk, and you're going to know it because you're going to feel it. So the stalk of a broccoli is very tough. So that's going to tell you it's very fibrous. So that's going to tell you right there that you need to cook that a little longer. So I would throw the broccoli in first, 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes. Then I would throw in the butternut squash, or whatever, carrot, or whatever else you're using. And then I would probably throw in the zucchini last, because zucchini, as you know, it has so much water in it already, and it just cooks so fast. And then voila, you're pretty much done. Add your favorite sauce. One of the things that I love about the cookbook, which by the way we really use ourselves, like we walk our talk.
We really do. It's the most used cookbook in our house.
It really is. And it's so funny too, because you'd think like we could just now true, I'm a chef, so I can kind of improvise, but you would think that we don't follow the cook. We might be making things out of the cookbook, but not following the cookbook. And sometimes when Margaret, you should tell this story.
Well, James likes things done a very specific way. And when I've tried to do it my way, it hasn't gone over very well. And then those times where I have followed the recipe to the T, which of course is his recipe, he'll sit down and say, "Oh my God, this is really good. Where'd you get this from?" And I'm like, it's the cookbook.
Oh, so yeah. So the recipes really do work. And we're happy to say that we tested them so many times, so they are replicable and work.
Now, for those of you who live in the LA area, and you might be thinking to yourselves, this sounds great, but I really don't want to cook, and I don't have time to do all this kind of stuff. I have really great news for you. So James not only is a private chef and the co-author of this fabulous cookbook, he also is the owner of a healthy meal delivery company called Wholesome To Go. And you can find them at wholesome2go.com. And a lot of the recipes from this book are actually the ones that they use in the business. They do provide a whole 14-day sugar control detox program. So, when we were talking about that before, you don't want to do the cooking yourself, no problem. They will deliver all of these meals to you. They are delicious, delicious. And I'm not saying that because he's right here and because he's my husband. I actually really believe that. I would just be quiet if I didn't think that. They're all fresh. They arrive in the middle of the night, so you don't have to be there to receive them. They're in cold packs, so you just take them out and put them in your fridge and then use them throughout the day. They've got really clear heating instructions for those things that need to be heated, and some of them don't need to be heated. They're just raw, and you just toss and go. And they're filling, and they're all local. He's done a really great job of sourcing great farmers. So if you're concerned about the quality of the ingredients and you want to make sure any animal foods you eat come from very happy, healthy, well cared for animals, he's done all of that work for you.
Yeah, and we're kind of like the best kept secret in LA because we really do focus on word of mouth. So definitely check it out. It's at wholesome2go.com. And similar to the Naked Foods Cookbook, we are 100% gluten-free. Yeah. And one thing I love talking about gluten-free is gluten-free is kind of the hot topic right now. It's if anything, if you were looking at food trends, like I know someone who just recently went to the Anaheim health convention. Do you know the name of
the Natural Foods Expo?
The Natural Foods Expo. Yes, thank you. So they were telling me that when I went about 6 years ago, stevia was the big thing. Everything had stevia. Well, when they went just last month, it was gluten-free. Everything was all about gluten-free. But here's the important piece, is all gluten-free is not the same. So a lot of people right now think they're all supposed to be eating gluten-free, or they think that, gluten-free would be healthier. But most of the products that are gluten-free are putting different filler in there. So similar to when we were talking about when they went fat-free, in the 90s, all those Snackwell products, fat-free Snackwell. Well, yeah, they got rid of the fat, but they just added more sugar. And similar with these products, yes, they got rid of the gluten, but they're just adding potato starches, guar gums, all these
tapioca starch.
Tapioca starch.
Starch.
And it's actually it's actually just as bad for you. So what I love when I teach people about gluten-free cooking, and as you've seen right here, we're using real whole foods. So the desserts in this cookbook use almond flour, which is from an almond. It use sorghum flour, which is from the sorghum seed, which is an African seed. So we're using actual real foods. There are no fillers, none.
No. And they're super yummy.
Yeah, that's true. I always challenge. We have a couple of cookies in there, and one of them is a chocolate chip cookie, and I challenge all of you out there to make these cookies and give them to someone else, a kid or an adult, whoever you'd like, and I just challenge them to tell me that it's not as good or better than a normal cookie.
Some would say that's why I married him, is for his cookies.
But so that's our demo for the gluten-free ways to get out, or well, I guess it's not just gluten-free, but to get more vegetables in your diet and get the starches out, to get the pastas out.
We have a whole bunch of other videos on our website, which is eatnakednow.com. There's a little videos tab, and we have included some of these techniques as well as other techniques that we use in the Naked Foods Cookbook that might be a little bit new for you, not necessarily taking more time, but definitely a little bit new and different from what a lot of you guys are doing.
And we also have in the cookbook, in actually Margaret's first book, Eat Naked, and in the Naked Foods Cookbook, there are recipes how to make use cauliflower to make it like couscous. So there's more tricks in the book. We're just revealing one right now because we want to just entice you towards getting the book or looking into it. But there's a lot of different options of how to get more vegetables in your diet, eat gluten-free, and eat real whole foods.
So it's great for any of you paleo types out there, anyone who's gluten-free, grain-free, just wanting to cut down on the starch, wanting to lean up, or just simply looking for more creative ways to get veggies in your diet.
And thank you so much for having us today, Josh. And again, I'm Chef James Berry, Wholesome to Go, Wholesome, the number 2, go.com.
And I'm Margaret Floyd with Eat Naked, which is at eatnakednow.com.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, James and Margaret. This is Josh Lane with Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Radio Network. We'll be right back after these important messages.
You suffer from degenerative diseases such as high blood pressure, diabetes, fibroid tumors, high cholesterol, genital herpes, or a plethora of other diseases that rob you of a quality life. If so, then visit the website of herbalist Tahuti Ma'atra at dhealthstore.com and open the door to natural healing at an affordable price. dhealthstore.com has over 1,800 products created by herbalist Tahuti Ma'atra, specifically designed to help you heal the natural and safe way. At dhealthstore.com, you'll find everything from herbal formulas and cleanses, such as Tahuti's famous Full Body Detox, as well as herbal teas, extracts, natural body butters, lotions, creams, children's products, hair care products, and of course, sexual enhancement products for both men and women. So visit the website of Tahuti Ma'atra, dhealthstore.com, or call toll-free at 1-888-823-9416, dhealthstore.com.
Hey everybody, it's your man Sabir Bey back on your airwaves, inviting you to join us every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Sabir Bey Show, discussing history, law, and hip-hop. Every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Sabir Bey Show, exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You also can catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch us and listen directly at LATalkLive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Elena, inviting you to join me every Wednesday at noon for Elena's Beauty Talk and more, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and
and we are more than just talk.
Hey, what's up, people? It's Jennifer Top here from StarCam. You guys might know me from the red carpet, catching up with all the stars. But guess what? We're bringing the red carpet to the radio right out here on LA Talk Live. I'm going live Thursday nights at 6 p.m. We got hot topics, celebrities, and much more. We were featured on Chloe Lamar on E!, Howard Stern, T.I.'s Family Hustle. You know how we do. So check it out on Thursday nights, 6 p.m. All things Hollywood, everything celebrity. StarCam Radio?
StarCam Radio? StarCam Radio!
Oh yeah, follow us on Twitter at StarCam Radio.
Hi, this is Julie Orlov, inviting you to join us every Friday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for our all-new show, Pathways to Love. Join us as we talk about love and relationships and how you can create the relationships you desire. So don't forget to tune in to Pathways to Love every Friday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio, or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. I'm your host. My name is Josh Lane. And our guest this segment is Dr. Sharhadi.
Shore Ershadi.
I apologize. Shore Ershadi. I apologize. I'm sorry. Shore Ershadi, who has been a guest on my show before.
Yes.
Excuse me for flubbing that. And Shora has the Anti-Aging Institute of California and has some excellent, intelligent, contemporary products for health and for weight control and for a variety of other important topics. Thank you for being a guest on my show.
Thank you so much, Josh. And that was such an interesting segment right before this. I really enjoyed the show.
Oh, the cooking segment with James and Margaret.
Yes, beautiful. Very interesting. And what I would like to start with today is on Facebook. If the listeners would like to go check out Menopause Maggie. Mm-hmm. We have a character, the funny side of menopause, because it's a real serious subject, and a lot of us women have to deal with it without knowing much about the subject. So we've created Maggie to sort of give the message and explain in a fun way. So if they would like to go to Facebook and check Menopause Maggie, or just put Maggie and menopause and it would show up. And it's becoming very popular, and it has real interesting subjects about how we crave chocolate, for example. And chocolate is a good thing. If it's not sweet, if there's no sugar in it, it's really an anti-aging product. And we can all use it. And I know men like chocolate too. Maybe they won't talk about it. But for us women, chocolate has an emotional effect, because right before the period, the 1 week before the menstrual cycle, we crave chocolate. And I always thought, I studied in England and they have great chocolate. And I always thought, what would I do if there was not that much chocolate available? Mm-hmm. Because of the depressing feeling, because of the mood swings and the changes in the hormones, the rise and fall of estrogen and progesterone, we get moody, and you men know very well about the mood swings. And even my son would tell me, Mom, it's the week before your period, and it's so embarrassing. But to deal with that and to deal with the changes, we've created Maggie to help us explain the very difficult subjects that we don't want to talk about. We had the product for menopause is Don't Pause. Don't pause your life. Don't pause for menopause. And menopause statistically starts at the age of 37 and a half. It's not our grandmother's issue anymore. Because in olden days, grandmothers were old, were 40, 50, 60. Now we see women at 40, at 37 are really, really young. And perimenopause is a medical term. It's 10 years before the actual menopause. And with the mood swings, that starts with every week before the period starts, and it starts at around the age of 10, 12, 13, or maybe 16 in Scandinavian or colder countries. The warmer we get, the sooner the period starts.
Oh, really?
And in Saudi Arabia and in Middle East countries, girls get their period at before the age of 10. So you can imagine a 10-year-old girl going through all this and all the mood swings and all the
I've never heard
changes.
that before. I did not realize there was a climate component.
It is, and it's
Oh, my
very
goodness.
interesting because the only thing that we know now is vitamin D that changes with the sun and with heat. So vitamin D, and you know the formula for vitamin D is exactly like estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. They're all made from cholesterol.
I did not know that.
And the ring is perhydroxychloropentanephenanthrene. I just want to mention the name so that the chemical name is known. It is a ring, a phenol ring that cholesterol is made of, and all our steroid hormones and vitamin D, which is a hormone, is made from cholesterol. So we don't need to have very low cholesterols. I'm adding this in between because low cholesterol, lower than 150 milligram per DL, causes depression. So if you're taking cholesterol medication and you feel that you're depressed and you don't have that vibe and energy, it may be because your cholesterol is too low. So check with your doctor. But again, with the hormone changes, we want to be as stable as possible. I know they're going to change. We're not going to fix it because that is the way nature or God or creation has made us. But it is disturbing. It is disturbing to work. It is disturbing to life. So we want to maintain that. And with Don't Pause, starting at 37 and a half, we can help with the mood swings. I have identified 45 menopausal symptoms. And what I would like to say is that menopause is not a phase, because women think, okay, I don't get hot flashes, I'm done, there's no menopause. Menopause is the rest of our lives, starting at 37 and a half, and now that women live longer and we live to be 84, and hopefully that would increase, and we want to be healthy, we want to have healthy bones. We don't want to get wrinkled. We want to have a healthy skin. We want to keep our hair, both for men and women. So I'm talking about 3 products, for him, for her, and for both. For him, we have Function for Men, and we're going to talk about it.
Yes.
It's an enhanced function for men, and all men, after puberty, they can use the product. It's all natural, and it increases testosterone. For her is Don't Pause, that we talked briefly about, and I would recommend that women would go on the website. They can go to menopauseguide.com and read about what menopause is and learn about it and be prepared. And if they feel bad, if they feel depressed, if they feel angry, if they feel low energy, if they feel they're retaining water, they're gaining weight, oh my God, that is a major issue, that right around the age of 40, your girlish figure changes. And women don't know what happened suddenly. The waist is gone, the belly is getting bigger, the body changes the whole shape, and we have to exercise more and work harder to maintain the shape. Eat healthier. Those are all part of a healthy living, but we can get some good natural help to maintain the figure, to get rid of that water retention, to get rid of the fat retention, because everything we eat just sticks to the body. Right. It won't leave it. It's not like when you're younger and you can use that food to generate energy and we retain it. And it makes us low energy. Instead of giving us more energy, the more we eat, the more tired we feel. So we want to get everything back in order and feel like when we're 25. And we can do that with the help of science of 21st century and the knowledge of what nature has provided us. We can stay young and healthy till we are over 100 years old.
For those of you just tuning in to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network, our guest is Dr. Shora Ershadi. Oh my goodness. Shora Ershadi, who's been a guest before, and her formulations are excellent. May I ask you, the Don't Pause formulation, which I thought was excellent, are you the formulator of these?
Yes.
You are a registered pharmacist?
I am, and I have a PhD from medical school in England. So I have my PharmD degree, and I have the PhD in clinical biochemistry and major in endocrinology. So all my life, I have worked with hormones. Hormones everywhere. Hormones in your blood, testing hormones, finding the values, and checking the fluctuations. So why is it different? And we all go through changes. Men go through andropause,
well, let me ask you a question about your Don't Pause formula for women. I noticed that in 2 capsules, you offer 5 milligrams of DHEA.
Yes.
So that's 2.5 per each capsule, which to me seems like a really desirable and on-the-money amount of DHEA. Because many times women go to practitioners, MDs, and the MDs will recommend 100 milligrams of DHEA or even 50 milligrams. And I'm thinking, based on what I know, that's way too much.
It is.
Yours is the formulation, the only formulation, because this is what I do for a living, it's the only formulation where I thought to myself, my God, this is right on the money.
Josh, I'm so happy that you mentioned this, and I am excited that you paid attention to this very, very important matter. DHEA is dehydroepiandrosterone. It is made from cholesterol. Again, it's the same formula. It's a steroid hormone. What DHEA does is that in women, it turns into estrogen and progesterone, and in men, it turns into testosterone. But what women need, which most people, and I would bravely say most doctors, do not think about it, and then they go after it with exaggeration, is that testosterone is needed for women. In order for a woman, a young woman, after puberty, all the way, and I would say all the way till the age of 100, for a woman to feel sexy, we need to have testosterone. Let me explain something else. And this is for men too. Please listen carefully because I'm sure you will have a question, and a very good question on that. Testosterone generates the desire. Testosterone does not make you sexy. Men who are taking testosterone will not get sexy. Testosterone will not do what Viagra and Cialis are doing. Viagra and Cialis are creating nitric oxide, and they are increasing the blood flow for a better erection. That is all they do. But erection does not have anything with the desire. Testosterone is what causes the desire. When you get excited, when you see someone, when you even see a picture, when you see a movie, when you listen to nice music, it is the testosterone that is giving you that beautiful, loving, caring, sexy feeling. And it's the same feeling for women and for men. So for women, in order to feel sexy, they need to have testosterone. Estrogen makes them cushy. Estrogen makes a woman nice and warm and soft. In order to have a baby, you need to have estrogen. The way nature has made a mother is for when the baby is born to feel in a soft, cushy, loving place. Estrogen does that, makes the body soft, and it retains the fat. But estrogen does not make you sexy. Estrogen just prepares you for childbirth. For men, testosterone does not make them have a better erection. They would have better muscles. They would feel healthier. They would feel more energetic. And now that we know this, women would want to be like that. Women, after they've had their baby, they've had their estrogen, they want a healthy, strong, muscly body. We work hard at the gym to get that muscle, to lose the fat. We're fighting what estrogen is doing with us. Estrogen is maintaining the fat in our body. We fight to get rid of the estrogen. This is where that 2.5 milligram of DHEA comes. DHEA makes us feel happy, makes us feel young. It's the one and only anti-aging steroid hormone for both men and women because it's the precursor to testosterone. Your body makes whatever it needs. So if I take Don't Pause, which I've been taking for God knows how long, my body now, you see, that is muscular. I do exercise. I go to the gym. I work out. But if it was all estrogen, it would be more fat. With the DHEA, I have more muscle. I have a stronger body. I have better bones because my bones are, every time I do bone density, I don't have the slightest bit of osteoporosis or osteopenia because of that DHEA, because of the exercise, because of healthy eating, because I take care of my body with the knowledge of endocrinology, with the knowledge of pharmacology. Don't Pause is pomegranate extract. It has green tea. It has soy isoflavones. It has black cohosh. It has DHEA, chromium picolinate to balance the sugar. Everything that we need after the age of 37 and a half for women to stay young, healthy, beautiful, sexy, with no wrinkles, because the pomegranate maintains the skin with no wrinkles.
Well, okay, that's a remarkable product. So could a younger woman, let's say a woman is 40, 41, 42, and really having no menopausal symptoms that she knows of, but she wishes to maintain a powerful, strong, slim body, that woman might use, say, 1 capsule a day, 1 capsule every other day?
Perfect. Yes. After the age of 37 and a half, and that is a statistic number. So it may be over 40, 45, or I've got patients who are 25 and they start showing symptoms. Women who are smoking start menopause a lot earlier. Women who are not exercising, genetic factors are important. So there are many different reasons, and women who have irregular periods may get some use and help from Don't Pause because it does balance what's happening inside the body.
Is the irregular period of a woman in her 30s just a transition towards menopause?
Not necessarily. We have to find the reason. Sometimes it could be a polycystic ovary symptom, which are cysts in the ovaries that would cause irregular period, but that comes with certain signs. If there is dark facial hair, if there is acne, if there is strong pain, very, very strong cramps right before the period, those are symptoms of PCOS or polycystic ovary symptom, which may cause irregular period.
I see. Well, that's actually pretty remarkable. Can men use that product?
Men can use Don't Pause. There's nothing, because this is just like a salad. You're having a salad with different herbs in it, with pomegranate, so it's not going to harm them. But it's not necessarily made for men, because a man's body requires other ingredients. And we have put all those other ingredients in function for men.
This product here?
The product, this one is a multivitamin that we're showing. The one here on the pamphlet is function for men. What function does is that it has L-arginine and L-citrulline. These are two amino acids. They're proteins. It's like eating watermelon or it's like eating a protein-rich food. What L-arginine and L-citrulline do is they mimic the effect of Cialis and Viagra. They generate nitric oxide. Nitric oxide, first of all, makes you happy. It makes you laugh a lot.
Really?
So it's good for the mood. The second thing they do is that they turn into testosterone. They're good for the muscles. So men who are working out, instead of using steroids, which harms your body and destroys the adrenal, men can use function for stronger muscles because it is natural testosterone made from protein, made from food. So instead of injecting steroids, if, what was the guy's name, the Tour de France guy, he would have taken function for men instead of injecting steroids. He would have the natural effect. We don't need to use strong chemicals to enhance the body.
Right.
It's a mixture of food. It's a salad. Function is a salad. It's a salad with watermelon. It's a salad with protein in it. And what it does, it enhances nitric oxide. It enhances testosterone. It's good for the mood. And it's great for circulation. It increases blood flow. And men need a good circulation for erection.
Right.
For having feelings, for feeling sexy, for having the desire, they need testosterone. But sometimes they have enough testosterone. They have the desire, but they cannot function because there is no circulation.
Right.
So for men, it's critical. It is critical. If you have a bad circulation, if you have a problem with erection, please check your heart. Go to a cardiovascular doctor and make sure your cholesterol is not high. Make sure your arteries are open because all the problem with ED, with erectile dysfunction, is circulation. That's the one problem. And if we improve the circulation naturally with exercise, with eating healthy, with lower fats, and with taking function for men, the circulation would improve. The result would be better memory. Everything is related in our body.
Right.
If you don't have a good memory, you'll not have a good erection. Right. They're related.
I know people, I think some people who know the subject would think, oh my goodness, that's well laid out. You make a good presentation. Others would think, really, we didn't know that? Because, not to cast aspersions, but the MDs don't mention this to their men.
First, that they don't have the time. They see a patient in 5 minutes, they check blood pressure, they get the blood, they draw it, and you're out.
Well, you're letting them off the hook, which is very kind of you. But really, it's their job as healers. I mean, that's why you're going there. I mean, they're the healer, and their job is to heal you, which is, seems very fair. So they need to take the time to speak to their patients, to get a history, to give them these information about lifestyle. The only problem with that is it takes time, and unfortunately, it's not very profitable for them.
It's not. And I would defend them to death because they're doing great. Look at what good they do. If we need a surgery, if we have a real serious problem,
they're great.
We need a good doctor. Right. But we cannot ask our doctors to make decisions for us daily. We are responsible for our health, me and you. You cannot go to your doctor every day and say, I don't feel good. I'm tired. I don't have energy. I'm angry. I feel low energy. I feel in a bad mood. I had an argument. You can't go to, they don't want to listen to this.
Okay, that's very fair.
You're
right. It's very fair. Right.
They're trained to take care of serious issues. We expect a lot from the doctors. I don't like the ads that would say, go to your doctor and ask them to give you Viagra. ask them to give you Cialis.
It does
It's
seem
their
weird.
job. We
Right.
don't have to tell them.
No, I agree with you. Yes.
But we have to know what our problem is. We have to read about it. We have to be aware. And we know now, in 21st century, we are a lot more aware of our bodies. Before, up to probably the end of 20th century, we thought that, okay, our body would do whatever it's supposed to do. Now we know what we eat matters. What we read matters. The knowledge, the information, the vitamins, the supplements, these are food. They're just in a bottle because it's easier. I don't have time to make a salad every day with pomegranate, with green tea in it, with, whatever I need to put in my salad or to put in my breakfast or dinner or everything. But one capsule of Don't Pause or one capsule of Function takes care of 45 different symptoms in women. And these are symptoms that we may not think of them as medical symptoms, but if you read them, you will see, okay, I'm tired. That is a serious symptom. I don't have energy. That's another serious symptom. I'm losing my hair. That's another serious symptom. My bones are fragile. That's another serious symptom. My muscles hurt. All the women now, we hear about body pains, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia.
Right.
It is all after the age of 40, and they're all related. And now we know vitamin D, as we started with. The sun generates vitamin D. California has a lot of sun. All of us are vitamin D deficient.
Right. It's remarkable. Yes.
It's remarkable. Yes. And we all think, we're in the sun. And then think what happens in the cold parts of the country, especially this year that we've had this very long, gloomy winter in the eastern part of the country. In Canada, in Scandinavian countries, they don't have sun and they don't have vitamin D. And then you see that suicide rates are higher. Depression is much higher.
Yes.
This is all related. It's related to cholesterol. It's related to testosterone. It's related to estrogen, progesterone, and the one you mentioned, which is a great, easy way, and that is to take DHEA in Don't Pause and for men, in Function for Men.
And in Function for Men, besides arginine and citrulline, what other ingredients are there?
There are a whole host of ingredients, a big salad. There is horny goat extract.
Oh, yeah, horny goatweed, right.
Yes.
Bad name, great product.
Great product.
Kind of a sleazy name, but it seems to certainly work. I recommend it.
It did work. Apparently, that's where the name came from. And it's embarrassing to talk about it.
It's a silly name, yeah.
And especially as a woman, it was so difficult for me, even though I'm an endocrinologist, even though I've worked with patients all my life, but I was a lab director. And Josh, laboratories, we only talk to doctors when they don't understand the test results. When they see results are good, they never call you. When the result is bad, they will call you. What is this? Why is this high? Why is this low?
I did not know that. Okay.
No, but they call the lab and say, okay, I didn't know what this was. What is happening here? So you will get the most difficult questions from the doctors, but you only talk to the doctors. And you only talk about the most difficult questions. You don't talk to patients directly. None of you who've done lab tests have ever called your lab director and say, what is this? You call your doctor and say, what is this? And the doctor calls us and say, okay, why is this high? Why is that low? He's laughing, but it is true. But since, I don't know, how long is it? About 15 years that I have my radio programs and I talk about blood tests, clients call and say, oh, we didn't know what A1C was. Our doctor never told us what this was because they don't have the time to talk about it. But we need to know what's going on in our body and we need to talk about it. And now I don't feel bad. I can talk about erection. I can talk about testosterone. I can talk about estrogen. At the beginning, it was embarrassing. I did not want to go on the radio and talk about,
Right.
all these sexual problems.
Sure.
But it's not a problem anymore. It is our life. We want to feel good, and it doesn't matter how old we are. We want to feel great. And younger men, older men, younger women, older women, they all want to look great. They exercise. They capsule would take care of 45 symptoms. One capsule that would give them energy. One capsule that would keep their skin young. So combination, and we have many products. We have green coffee for weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot put everything in one capsule
Right.
because different people have different needs.
Yes.
Younger people, older people, overweight people, skinny people, people with depression, people with happiness, they all have different needs. So there are different products on the site. If they go to beforeyouage.com, letter B, number 4, letter U, AGE.com. Beforeyouage.com.
Beforeyouage.com. Okay. This is Here's to Your Health. Dr. Shora Ershadi, who's been our guest before, who does a remarkable job every time she appears on Here's to Your Health. Dr. Ershadi, do me a favor, just once again, give me your web address, please.
Before you age. Before you get old. Before you age. Letter B, number 4, letter U, AGE.com. And if you've already aged, please check it out because we can reverse aging. When I first started, FDA said that I could not say reverse aging.
Oh, I see.
They said, they sent me letters, and everybody, that you cannot reverse aging. With the help of American Academy of Anti-Aging and with the help of our products, we show, and science has shown, that we can reverse aging. Let me give you one good example.
Yes.
If you have osteoporosis, that is aging. The bones are brittle. So if we make the bones strong, we give DHEA, we give Don't Pause to women, and their bones absorbs calcium, and the osteoporosis would disappear. Even this is not reversing aging.
Wow.
It is. It's not just about beauty. It's about reversing aging. So at any age, we can reverse aging, we can prevent aging, and we can postpone aging. So we do 3 things.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. Our guest is Dr. Shora Ershadi, who is just a remarkable teacher of this subject. Her products are available on her web address. Unfortunately, we've got to sign off. We're going to take a very short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Hands can do incredible things. This is the sound of 326 hands playing Mozart. This is the sound of 10,942 hands showing appreciation. 64 hands building a house for the homeless. 142 hands swimming a triathlon. 18 hands winning the big game. And this is the sound of 2 hands helping to save a life. It's called Hands-Only CPR, and it's recommended by the American Heart Association. If an adult suddenly collapses, call 911, then push hard and fast in the center of their chest until help arrives. It's incredibly easy and effective. Hands can do incredible things, but nothing compares to using them to help save a life. Find out more about this latest method of CPR at handsonlycpr.org. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
Hey everybody, it's Miss R&B, and I'm inviting you to come and hang with me every Thursday night at 9 p.m. PST for Perspectives Corner with Rona Roe Bennett on America Talk Live. Hear and see interviews and live performances from some of our favorite celebrities and personalities in entertainment, sports, business, and the wellness industries. We're getting lifted and we're going deep, talking about life and empowering the champion in us all. See you there.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. And our next guest, has a product called, it's Velvet Deer Antler. The product is Buck Power. And you may have seen them in the news about a month ago when one of the professional football players announced that he was using it. Let me just read his name. Let me see here. The Ravens, Ray Lewis of the Ravens, using Buck Power, which made the product very popular once again. But Velvet Deer Antler has been around for a very long time. I'd like to thank my guest now, calling in from Florida. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. And so please tell me about how your company decided to carry this really ancient product called Velvet Deer Antler.
So first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Christy. I'm calling from TCCD International.
Thank you, Christy.
We market Buck Power Deer Antler Velvet capsules. And our company came upon Buck Power several years ago, probably upwards of 15 years ago. So even though there's just recently been this controversy in the media surrounding professional athletes using deer velvet, it's actually been around for quite some time, not just from us, but in Chinese medicine, it's been around for over 2,000 years. So it has a strong tradition with Chinese medicine for sure. And just recently, it's being introduced into the Western world so that we can use some of the amazing benefits from it.
And
I'd love to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and Kelly, and so your company, TCCD, is that correct? Hi there, are you there?
Right. Yes.
Very good, sorry. Why? So what will the product do for me as a non-football player?
You know, even though that in the media so much has been talked about, you know, how professional athletes can benefit from this product.
Yes.
Most of the benefits are really for people that are, you know, beyond their prime, that are wanting to find something really to help them stay active as they age. And actually, there's a former British Golf Open golfer, Sir Bob Charles, who has been using antler velvet for years, and he has been taking New Zealand deer antler velvet really just for good continued health. But some of the benefits are for your heart, for your immune system, for your nervous system, even for your weight, your body, and some say for your libido. So it's not just regarding strength or athleticism. It's really about promoting overall wellness, and that's what the Chinese have been using for thousands of years.
And yes, so just to get back to that, but velvet deer antler has been used by the Chinese medical system for possibly several thousand years that we know, at least certainly several hundred years. It's a legitimate mainstream item that they use. And I read your literature, you mentioned that your products all come from New Zealand. And why is that important?
That's extremely important. In America, we know that there's been chronic wasting disease among the deer, which is similar to mad cow's disease. So there is that risk, and of course, if there's any way that you can not introduce potential disease into your body, of course you'd want to avoid that. New Zealand, their deer are very pure. They were introduced to New Zealand from Europe originally, but because that is an island, New Zealand is an island that has remained uncontaminated by any disease. Their deer have never had chronic wasting disease at all. They are continually tested by the government using certified technicians and veterinarians. So it is a very pure substance, and that's why one of the reasons why it's important to use New Zealand deer velvet. But beyond that, within the Chinese tradition, there's only a handful of species that have been known to have these amazing, wonderful wellness tonic type of effects on the body. And they claim that it's really the red deer species, which is what is found in New Zealand. And then also there's some species that are found in China, the Sika deer, the Cervus nippon, but the red deer Cervus elaphus is specifically the species that we use. So now that's been tested over, like we say, 2,000 years of knowing that these specific species of deer have these benefits. And there's been extensive tests done by the Chinese and by New Zealand. Russia is another really popular area for these specific species. There's been very limited testing and studies conducted on North American deer. So it's questionable whether they would have the same benefits as these species that we've been using.
Okay, so the scientific literature supports certain. What's the correct word? Is it species of deer or is it
right? Species or classification.
Classification. And so my question now is, do we know what the constituent parts are? Is it rich in zinc? Is it what do we know what the nutrients are?
There's been a lot of studies that have been trying to ascertain exactly what's the magical components of the deer velvet. It's rich in a lot of minerals for sure. Let me just pull up my list here.
And while you're looking through the active ingredients, so is this product is appropriate for, say, men and women over the age of what?
It's really a very safe product. It's a completely 100% natural product. So it's not going to have any side effects, and tests and studies have supported this as well. They have not found that there's been any adverse reactions or side effects from taking this as a supplement. It is something that both men and women can take. There's a special, certain companies do develop a formula that is aimed specifically at children. Our product is specifically formulated and aimed towards a more active adult audience.
Sure.
But some of the chemical makeup of the deer velvet, it's important to note that it should be taken in its entirety, and we can talk about this a little bit further later on. But there's been a lot of controversy over concentrating the IGF-1 that is found in deer antler velvet naturally. But our stance is it's important to take it as a whole to really get the full wellness tonic effect of the supplement. Some of the things that are found, or the components, would be amino acids, polypeptides, lipids, fatty acids, minerals such as calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, sodium, potassium. There's proteins.
So excuse me. So Kelly,
collagen.
Kelly. So your thinking is.
It's Christy.
I'm Christy. Christy, your thinking is that indeed it's not just the active ingredients; it's the combination of all the active ingredients in a synergistic herb, in this case, the velvet deer antler. Is that what you're thinking? So it's not, if we isolate just one principle, then indeed we're losing the point?
Absolutely, and we're losing the point of it being a natural supplement that can work very, very synergistically with your existing wellness program, and whatever your diet includes, and other supplements you may include as well. As soon as you start, trying to isolate certain components within the deer antler velvet, you start moving towards a manufactured substance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the controversy. But if you want to maintain a very healthy, natural lifestyle, the best thing is to really use a natural supplement that doesn't have any contamination in it. A lot of these other places that are concentrating out the IGF, you don't know exactly what else is included in their formulas.
Yes.
What other chemicals they're using. It's certainly not a 100% natural product at that point. It really could be considered, an IGF product by the FDA instead of a deer antler velvet product.
And on your Buck Power velvet deer antler from New Zealand, what is the recommendation for a man over the age of 40?
A recommendation as far as dosage?
Yes, let's say someone plays a lot of tennis, they play a lot of golf, they lift weights, they swim, they surf. They're active physically.
Well, what we say is there's a certain loading in period of when you should be taking more of the supplement, and so we recommend up to 2 to 4 capsules a day for that, and then after about a 2-week period, once your body has enough of that supplement already in your body, you can drop down to say 1 to 2 capsules. And actually, I have on the phone with me Mike, who is a current customer of ours who's been using Buck Power for a while, and he can speak more specifically towards the dosage and what he has found, not just with dosage, but also with cycling of the product as well. So I don't know, Mike.
Great, that'll be great. Sure. Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, sure. Hi guys, how you doing?
Hi, Mike. This is Josh Lane. You're listening to us today on the LA Talk Live radio network. The show is Here's to Your Health. And Mike, you are using Buck Power successfully?
Yeah, I do. I take it for a couple reasons. Some for the gym, some for I'm in a couple football and basketball leagues. I'm in my mid-30s, and I've noticed some really good benefits with taking it. In terms of the gym, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it was in the late 90s. There was a big supplement that came out because of baseball called Androstein.
Mm-hmm, yes.
I would say this is kind of all supplements, kind of the most similar to that. Maybe not as extreme.
Really?
But,
wow.
Yeah, but it definitely had similar effects in terms of weightlifting. For example, say I'm trying to have a heavy day and I'm trying to do heavy legs or heavy shoulders or heavy chest, one that really, really strenuous in the body. Say I would typically at my max get to 8 or 9 repetitions. Well, with this, once it's really in your system, you can get higher. You can do a little more. You could get to 10 or 11 or 12, and or even it helps with your focus a lot also. So, say for example, you're pushing really heavy. It's kind of tough on the body, and your brain's like, oh, I'm tired. I'm not going to be able to get this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't have those same thoughts of your body feeling tired. You're much more focused and kind of into your workout to where you're not doubting how strong you might be and how heavy you will be able to lift. That you're kind of going through the motions and you're getting an extra good few reps into there. That's kind of boosting your strength a little bit, which was nice that I noticed.
And so you discovered the velvet deer antler, the Buck Power, and when you started taking it, how long before you thought, oh, this is kicking in?
I'd say a couple weeks. I know some people they'll say a few days. Some people will say a month or two. But with me, it was a couple weeks. And I noticed. And also, one thing I did notice was I had a shoulder injury, and from one of my football games from years prior. And it always kind of certain exercises involving pulling back, it would always kind of flare up. And I couldn't do those exercises. I noticed once I started taking this regularly, I just didn't have that same pulling pain that I used to have, which was awesome. I mean, I wasn't really used to that sort of thing, so it was really a really great thing to have happening. So it happened for me, I would say, after probably like 2 to 3 weeks or so. But like Christy was saying, I did what the bottle said. I took 3 to 4 for the first couple of weeks, and then, depending on workout, or if I was just going to go running or just play a sport, I might take 1 or 2. But if I was going to have a more intense day, like lifting heavy or having a long workout, I take maybe 3 pills, maybe 4 pills, depending on it. And you could definitely tell the difference between taking 1 to taking 3 or 4. So that's what I would do. But with the cycling aspect, like any sort of gym supplement, you don't want to abuse it, take it too long. So what I typically do is take it for maybe 3 tops 4 months, and then get off for a couple months. Another 3 to 4 months off. That way, your body doesn't get too used to it, and you don't kind of build an immunity to it. That way, you're on, you take it, you enjoy it, and then afterwards, your body kind of just stops, and then you can just start cycling again after the fact. So,
Mike, have you any experience with recommending this product to someone of your father's generation? Do older men or women enjoy its use?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've noticed. I actually one of the girls that I used to work with, I gave her it for a little bit, and she said that she was a runner, and she said that it definitely helped her knees out. She noticed that for sure. And obviously she wasn't really lifting crazy heavy weights, but with her running, I asked her if it helped at all, and she says, typically at like the 5 mile mark, she would kind of get over it and kind of want to stop running, but she would get to about 8 miles or so. So I mean, I'm not sure if that really helped boost it, but she thinks it might have. So you never know. I mean, it kind of helped out with that. I'm assuming for that. But in terms of the older man, another thing that I forgot to mention was this definitely does boost your libido, like Christy was saying. For example, you're just working out normally and you're going through your motions at the gym and walking around. Well, this thing, girls will walk by you, and you definitely you pay attention a little more.
Well, that's actually that's desirable. So it shows that it's obviously boosting circulation. It's a positive thing. It's not a drug-like thing.
I mean, like by no means is it any like sort of Viagra type of medicine, but just in terms of your libido just being a lot more stimulated, it 100% has that attribute to it.
And for men who have who you are familiar with, who have talked about the sexuality aspect and the Buck Power New Zealand Red Deer Antler Velvet, is there a time frame involved when they think, oh my, yes, I took 2 capsules a day for a week or 2, and then suddenly I think, oh my goodness, this is working for me. Any other stories like that?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much like I said before. I think that just keeping consistent with it. It's one of those for example, if you've ever taken like a glucosamine.
Yes.
If you take it for a few days, it's not going to do anything. If you take it like once a week, it's not going to do anything. If you take it regularly, your body can definitely feel the difference by taking it. This is kind of similar in how it reacts to the body with that. So if you do take it regularly, you absolutely will be able to tell multiple aspects of how it's affecting you. And in terms of positivity, it really is great overall. And one of the cool things is with side effects. I mean, I really honestly haven't felt one negative side effect, compared to a lot of these supplements that you can take. They're loaded with speed and caffeine and guarana and stuff to kind of get you more hyped up while you're working out. Well, those things I personally can't stand because they give you terrible anxiety afterwards. You might get muscle spasms. You might feel weird after them. You might give you insomnia, stuff like that. And this, nothing. It's just, you feel it while you're at the gym, but then afterwards you go home and you eat your dinner and get on with your day, and you don't really feel much afterwards. So that was actually a real huge thing for me because having like the after anxiety feelings from a workout supplement was not anything that I had interest in. And this doesn't have any negative effects in terms of stuff like that. So that was nice.
Well, that sounds actually important. And Mike, where can people buy the Buck Power New Zealand Red Deer Antler Velvet?
I know for sure that it's at Vitamin Shop on the TTD website, and I believe Walgreens.com Christy would know more than I would, but I think that's where I know where they're at.
Yep, that's right. And then also, this is pretty big news. We are going to be in GNC stores across the country starting April 1st.
Oh, good.
So people will be able to find
Wow.
it pretty much anywhere in the U.S. If they go to either Vitamin Shop, GNC, they can certainly purchase it directly from our site, but usually they can find a little better pricing if they go to one of our retailers. So it's something that's been flying off the shelves, actually, and we've been getting some of our customers calling in or emailing in complaining about the supply, but it should now be, everyone should be well stocked up. But after the Super Bowl and the Ray Lewis story came out, it was just a very hot product everywhere.
That sounds good.
So,
that sounds good. And Christy and Mike, do me a favor, just give us your web address so that people can read about the product online.
Sure. They can go to buckpowerdeervelvet.com. And on there, they can, there's links to buying it on Walgreens.com and Vitamin Shop. And then there's also, very important for your listeners and for anyone that is concerned about what they're putting into their bodies, there's our studies on here that show how there's like a 9.9% increase in strength, 9.8% increase in aerobic capacity, and it lowers bad cholesterol. Those studies are published on our website at buckpowerdeervelvet.com, so they can really learn a little bit more about the science behind this product. A lot of products out there that are touting Deer Velvet, there's not much to back up that it's a quality product. But like I said, we've been in the market for about 15 years now. We have a pretty strong following of customers, so we know our product works, and it's good. We have the science to back it up.
It's good to have a great track record. Christy and Mike from Buck Power, thank you for calling in today from Florida. This is Josh Lane with Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Are you ready to enjoy the Maui lifestyle? You can have it all by owning real estate on the Paradise Island of Maui. Dennis Rush, a 22-year Maui resident and real estate broker, brings his wealth of experience and market knowledge to add value to your Maui real estate understanding, providing a level of service as unique and exceptional as the island of Maui itself. The magical island of Maui was voted the most exclusive resort island in the world by Condé Nast Traveler, and keep in mind, Maui is only a simple, non-stop flight away. Hawaii Business Magazine Top 100 Realtors awarded Dennis Rush the 2011 fourth top realtor on the island of Maui. Go to www.dennisrush.com to view all of the amazing properties currently available in the Maui MLS system. Whatever your needs or desires, Dennis Rush will provide a private consultation for any Maui properties your heart desires. You will be in good hands. Once again, go to www.dennisrush.com. That's www.dennisrush.com. Contact Dennis today to start your Maui lifestyle now. Dennis Rush, proud sponsors of the Dawn Christie Show and LA Talk Live.
Oh, your skin looks great.
Thank you.
What's your secret?
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence.
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence?
Yes, it's a beauty secret used since the time of the Greeks and Romans. The spa in Malibu told me about frankincense and myrrh by Ancient Essence, and now my skin is lovely.
Well, your skin looks great.
Call Ancient Essence at 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Call 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret. Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Available at fine spas and beauty centers.
Hey everybody, it's your man Sabir Bey back on your airwaves, inviting you to join us every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Sabir Bey Show, discussing history, law, and hip-hop. Every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Sabir Bey Show, exclusively on latalklive.com. You also can catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch us and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. And our next guest is the author, Kirk Kardashian, who has a book called Milk Money, in which he writes about the problems associated with the American dairy industry and with milk in the United States and the role of milk in our diet. A very nicely done, easy to read book, a contemporary book. So, Kirk, I'd like to thank you for being a guest on my show.
Thank you, Josh. I'm glad to be here.
Yes. What prompted you to write about the American dairy industry?
That's a good question. I grew up in New Jersey and probably didn't see a real dairy farm until I was in my 20s in college or something like that. And then I moved to Vermont, and dairy farming plays a pretty major role in Vermont's economy. Mm-hmm. So I started to understand a little bit about the industry, and just saw what a dairy farm looked like, and then we started taking our daughter to daycare on a dairy farm just 6 miles from our house. So it was just a small dairy farm, about 70 cows. And it was, owned and run by a family, husband and wife and their son. And I got to know them, and I got to respect them very much just for being such hard workers, and producing this great product that we all, most people enjoy. And then a few years after that, the dairy crisis hit. This was 2009, and milk prices plummeted, costs were up, and lots of dairy farmers were going out of business. And as a journalist, it just made me curious as to why all this suffering and hardship was going on. Why people were working so hard and making a product that we all wanted, yet losing money in the process. So I started to look into it, and that's what became the book.
And I was reading your book, and you were talking about one particular farmer, a dairy farmer whose dad had started after the Second World War, and then the son took over, and then the son unfortunately bounced a few big checks and was arrested, which was a kind of a shocking way to start a book. And is that farmer still in business?
Yeah, he's still in business, and actually he's also transitioned a bit into raising boar goats for meat. So I think he's starting to get out of dairy and get into something else. But he's basically diversified his farm a little bit, so he's less dependent on the income from the dairy business.
And one idea about using cow's milk in the United States as a staple food, but cow's milk is actually new in the United States. When did cow's milk become considered a staple item in our diet?
Well, that's a good question. I think it really depends on what you mean by staple. I mean, there were from the time that the settlers came. I mean, there were cows here, and people were farming all sorts of things, all sorts of plants and animals, and there weren't really just dairy farms at that time. And then as cities grew up and more people started to populate them, there's a sort of a specialization happening where they were actually just farms that decided to specialize in just dairy farming. So this was like in the mid 1800s, and then with the railroads coming in, that facilitated transportation of fresh milk over longer distances, which meant that the farms could be further away from the cities. So I'd say, to answer your question, is milk probably became an American staple sometime around the turn of the 19th to the 20th century.
Mm-hmm. And before that time, you said farms were mixed use, and of course you couldn't bring things to market. So there was not really that much consumption of milk, unless, of course, you happen to live on a farm, and many people, of course, at that time in the United States did live on farms. But today...
That's right, yeah. There was no way to transport it and keep it fresh.
But today there's a lot of discussion about the quality of milk, and some people have decided that indeed they want to use only organically grown milk, and others have decided they want to use only raw milk. Can you address the organic and the raw milk issues?
Sure, yeah. Well, there's basically there are two movements in the same direction, and the organic movement is going towards a product that is still pasteurized and produced, sort of in the normal way, but without using any pesticides or fertilizers or any antibiotics or anything like that. So that product is produced in a totally organic way. Mm-hmm. Now, raw milk takes that a step further and says we're not going to even pasteurize the milk. And actually, raw milk might not be organic. It may or may not be, depending on the farm. But the raw milk enthusiasts, they believe that pasteurizing the milk is actually really bad for the milk, and it sort of robs it of the beneficial properties that you can only get with unpasteurized milk. So they're both sort of movements towards a fresher, more pure product.
And also, I was told that when a farmer has a raw milk that farmer produces, that farmer is not allowed to mingle that milk with another farmer's milk. And so we know exactly which farmer is producing the raw milk, and that the raw milk farmers, which sell directly to consumers, make a great deal more profit and cut out the middlemen, and the middlemen, the distributors of the milk, are the ones who make most of the money in the dairy, I'll use the word dairy profession broadly, today, and that the raw milk movement is a way for the individual farmer to be able to survive and possibly to thrive.
Yeah, there is some truth to that, but the big thing you have to keep in mind is that raw milk regulations vary by state. Mm-hmm. So in some states, it's perfectly legal for a dairy farmer to sell his or her raw milk either at the farm or at a farmer's market or even in the store. Other states say that a farmer can only sell raw milk at the farm. Other states say that the farmer can only sell raw milk in the store. So it varies. Now, some states actually prohibit it entirely. So the states that have the right to regulate that aspect of milk sales, and while it for the farms in the states where it's allowed, it does provide a way for these farmers to cut out the middleman, deal directly with the consumer, gain a higher percentage of the cost of making the milk. There are plenty of other farmers in states where raw milk is either highly restricted or prohibited, where that's not a realistic avenue. And also there's the other major issue of the questionability of the health of raw milk. So that's still up in the air, I think.
And based on your research on the subject of milk production in the United States, do you see that I'll use the word organically grown movement, the organic movement, in your opinion, is that picking up steam with milk? Is that capturing a greater share of the marketplace?
It is. I mean, the rise of organic milk followed the economic boom of the 2000s. Up until 2008. People had more disposable income. They were more willing to spend a little extra for organic milk. So organic dairy farms expanded, increased in number during those years. But when the Great Recession hit, there was definitely a downslope in the demand, and a lot of organic dairy farmers went out of business. So
I see.
Right now, I think it's sort of it went down and it sort of plateaued at a lower level than where it was back in 2007.
The production of organic milk, in your opinion, has not increased since 2007.
I mean, the per capita sort of demand of it has not. As far as the production goes, I don't know exactly to tell you one way or another.
Would you like to offer a prediction based on your studies for the book as to where organic and where raw milk are going in the United States for the consumer?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, my prediction is that organic milk is going to grow. That the market for that is pretty strong, and that people are going to continue to believe that organic milk is better for them, and that it's more valuable, and therefore that they'll pay more for it. And I think as the economy recovers too, people will have a little bit more money to spend, and they'll be willing to spend that on organic milk. So I think that is a growth market. Raw milk is an entirely different question.
Mm-hmm.
The USDA is strongly opposed to people drinking raw milk. It's considered a public health issue, because raw milk has certain bacteria in it, depending on which farm it's from, and the consumer of that milk may not have the immune system to fight off any of the bacteria that's in that milk. And now a person might just naturally be able to drink raw milk and not have a problem, but somebody else may get deathly ill from it, and so it's very unpredictable, and it also is very dependent on the cleanliness of the farm where the raw milk comes from. So people have to be a little bit more diligent and aware of the source of their milk before they drink raw milk. So personally, I think raw milk is going to continue to be a very niche market for a very small number of people.
Based on the fact well, you mentioned these ideas, but aren't all the dairies inspected? Aren't we talking about not some guy with one cow, but we're talking about, dairy businesses in which they are inspected by both state and federal authorities?
Well, for raw milk, not necessarily. The inspection process is done. My understanding of it, at least, and I didn't actually look into this in great depth, the regulations of inspections of farms and things like that. But I'm actually not sure if raw milk farms are inspected by state authorities.
Well, I know that certainly in California they certainly are. They're inspected on a regular basis, and they found no evidence ever of any kind of foodborne pathogen in them. One of the local guys was shut down, Organic Pastures, even though they couldn't find any pathogens on his farm. And he got so much publicity that when they finally allowed him to reopen, his business had kind of quadrupled. So even though the state went against him for no reason and caused him a lot of financial stress and emotional stress, the publicity was so fantastic, which was unexpected side benefit, that really, literally his business quadrupled in the raw milk. and it's sold really in most of the natural food stores here in California. And of course, in California, the milk is only allowed to come from one farm, so you know exactly where your milk is coming from, and that money goes directly to the farmer.
Yeah, I do know that raw milk is a much bigger industry in California than pretty much any state. I think I think California is one of the few, if not the only state where raw milk can be sold in the supermarket. So,
are you saying that it's not being out? You cannot buy raw milk in Vermont?
Not in the store. You can't.
Oh, I see. I did not know. Even in the natural food stores, you cannot buy raw milk?
That's right. Yeah, you can only get it from the farmer directly, or either on the farm or at a farmer's market.
And what about the use of raw milk cheeses in grocery stores around the United States, and of course natural food stores such as Whole Foods? How is that helping the farmers?
Well, the regulations on that also depends, state by state too. Mm-hmm. So. In the states where raw milk cheese is allowed, I mean, that's definitely helping the farmers. Cheese is a value-added product, and if either farmers can, make it themselves on their farm, or they can sell their raw milk to a cheese maker and get a premium for that. When a farmer decides to sell his or her milk to a cheese maker, usually it's at a higher price than they could get from a cooperative or through the conventional dairy industry. So anywhere where raw milk cheese is legal, I think if farmers want to do that, they could definitely stand to profit from that.
I see. For those of you just turning in to Here's to Your Health today, I'm speaking with Kirk Kardashian, the author of Milk Money, and this is a new book just recently published. Mr. Kardashian, of everything that you've investigated on milk production in the United States, was there anything that caught you most by surprise about your studies?
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised at how some of the dairy workers were treated on some of the bigger farms. I spoke with these people personally, and they recounted their experiences as milkers on large dairy farms, and it sounded like a brutal existence, where they're not being treated fairly, where they're being sometimes exploited because they are not legal citizens or residents, where they are not being paid for hours worked, where they are not being provided with safety equipment that they need. So that side of it was pretty surprising to me, and it just showed me that the public's demand for cheap food has really worked its way through the system, and farmers are now forced to make a choice to hire illegal labor and pay them less than minimum wage just to stay in business. So that was surprising.
And are these farm workers on dairy farms, are they members of the United Farm Workers Union? Does that union cover them?
No, the United Farm Workers Union only has one dairy farm in its ranks right now, and I think that's in Oregon. But labor unions on dairy farms are very rare because most dairy farms don't have a huge workforce. It's 4 or 5 workers at most, and these workers are sort of isolated from each other from workers on other farms. They stay on the farm. They don't really leave very much, and it's hard for them to get together and sort of decide to organize. So, and the process for becoming part of a union is takes a long time in California and in other states too. So it's sort of a high barrier for dairy farmers. So it's very rare for farmers to be in unions.
I see. And what about the changing technology of the American dairy farm and the use of what is commonly called bovine growth hormone? What did your research tell you about that substance?
Well, bovine growth hormone was sort of a supply tool that was designed to make more milk out of the same cow, and that came about in the late 80s and early 90s when farmers and land grant colleges and agricultural departments in schools were trying to figure out how to make cows more productive, and recombinant bovine growth hormone (RGBH) was one of the answers, and that ended up working. It was very successful as far as making more milk from the same cow, but at the same time, people were very concerned that by drinking milk from cows that had ingested the RGBH, that the consumer would be getting hormones in the milk, and so the public outcry for that was pretty fierce. Even though there was sort of a lack of scientific evidence saying that the RGBH was harmful for humans. So the outcry basically pushed the industry away from RGBH. So it's pretty hard to find milk these days that has the bovine growth hormone in it.
And the bovine growth hormone, I remember when the controversy first hit in the early 90s, the industry, was it Monsanto who brought that chemical product out? Was it a Monsanto product?
I believe so. Yeah, I think you're maybe thinking of Posilac.
Well, yes, Posilac. I think Monsanto was so powerful that individuals who wanted to label their milk as having no bovine growth hormone were prevented from doing so by Monsanto, whereas in Europe, the recombinant bovine growth hormone was banned completely. And also, wasn't there a problem with the cows that were getting the bovine growth hormone? They were having much more problem with infection, and they required much greater levels of antibiotics?
Yes, that was another side effect of the growth hormone, was a greater incidence of mastitis.
Yes, which seems like a serious issue, both for the farmer, as far as treating the cows, for the cows themselves, and for the consumer, who might end up, unfortunately, getting residue of that in their milk and also residue of antibiotics.
Well, potentially, yeah. When cows are treated with antibiotics because they have mastitis or another infection, those cows are taken out of the milking cycle, and their milk is not put into the milk that comes from the farm and gets processed. So, theoretically, at least, that's the way it's supposed to be. But if cows do have some level of mastitis, they're not being treated with antibiotics. They're producing milk with a higher somatic cell count, which is a lower quality milk, so that it has less omega-3s. So that could potentially be another problem with using the RBGH. Even if it didn't mean transmitting the growth hormone through the milk, it might have given the cows higher somatic cell counts.
So you're saying that the milk produced, it was indeed less nutritious?
Potentially, yeah.
Yes. Well, that actually seems like a very big issue. Maybe that may be one reason why the bovine growth hormone has largely been defeated. Didn't Monsanto kind of give up on that one?
To be honest, I don't know all the history of that, so I can't say either way.
I believe they sold it to another corporation, kind of as a face-saving gesture, but indeed, because the Europeans, the Germans, all the other scientific countries in Europe wouldn't go for it, they just kind of give up because they realized they couldn't ram it down their throats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that sounds like it's possible. But on the other hand, Monsanto has been very committed to fighting in court for what it believes its rights are. So I don't know. I guess I'd be surprised if they gave up any sort of fight where they could make money from a product.
Sure. And by the way, your new book, Milk Money, have you enjoyed positive reviews?
Yeah, it has gotten some great reviews. It's been very gratifying. It's been reviewed by both the popular press and also by the dairy trade press. So it's gotten a good reception.
Did any of the newspapers in the Northeast part of the United States review your book?
Yep. The Providence Journal in Providence, Rhode Island, an Alternative Weekly in Burlington, Vermont, 7 Days did, and the environmental magazine Orion reviewed it, and they all gave it a nice review. So that was great.
And Mr. Kardashian, where can we get your new book, Milk Money? Where is it being sold?
It's available anywhere books are sold. You can get it on Amazon either in print or as Kindle, or you can get it from your local bookstore. They can order it for you if they don't have it in stock. So it's pretty much available anywhere.
Okay, great. We've been speaking with Kirk Kardashian, the author of the new book Milk Money. Kirk, thank you for being a guest on Here's to Your Health. I'm your host, Josh Lane.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah, it was fun to talk.
It was fun. Thank you very much. You've been listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Radio Network. We'll be back next week. Thank you for tuning in.
For more information about the guests and sponsors of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, please call us at 818-707-0005.